Chapter 1195. When Chuli did not see Lu Jingjun for a while, he knew something was wrong. Green Deer Cliff might start to suspect his identity. The best thing to do was to escape right away so that nobody would be able to find him. If Green Deer Cliff made a move, they might be able to catch him. Nonetheless, it was a pity that things had come to this. Chuli still had God's limbs, so he could leave as soon as things went south. However, he soon realized that he could not use God's limbs, so he had to rely on his martial arts to escape. Although he was not invincible in the world, Green Deer Cliff had many crouching tigers and hidden dragons and countless experts. However, in a sudden situation, he might be able to put up a fight and escape, right? He was not confident at all. After all, Green Deer Cliff was one of the 4 major sects and had many tricks up their sleeves. What exactly caused him to suspect something? Was there something wrong with the dream that he imagined? Chuli pondered. He was envious of the conscience stone. Not only could the stone read one's mind, but it could also be used to control enemies. By activating it, one could pull enemies within a mile into the dream and kill them in the dream. Would that not be the end of everything? It would not be an assassination. Unfortunately, he could only think about it. He dared not steal the stone, or he would be hunted down by the entire Green Deer Cliff. If there's a next time, how should he deal with the conscience stone? Should he activate the life and death scripture again and hide all his martial arts? Or should he hypnotize himself and let his guard down so that he would be able to react freely once he was hypnotized? During dinner, Lu Jingjun did not show up as if he had forgotten about this place. Chuli calmed down and was not anxious at all. He Shu and the other 2 joined him. The 4 of them gathered around a stone table in the forest, sitting on a tree stump and eating. Junior brother Lu, you're going to enter the inner cliff. Congratulations. He Shu praised. The first person in 100 years. You have a bright future. We'll be counting on you to take care of us in the future. Chu, Li shook his head. I'm afraid I won't be able to enter. Is there a more powerful opponent? He Shu asked. Chu Li replied, it's hard to say. You'll find out in the future. He did not know if the existence of Conscience Hall was kept a secret, so he did not want to bring trouble upon himself. Why can't you tell me? Zhangya asked anxiously. Won't you be able to enter the inner cliff if you defeat all the young disciples? There's one more stage, Chu Li said. Everyone, don't ask what this stage is. All right, I won't ask, He Shu hurriedly said. Footsteps were heard as Lu Jingjun hurried over. Come with me tomorrow. I have something to ask you. All right. Chu Li lowered his head and said. Lu Jingjun looked at him, then shook his head and left in a hurry. He Shu and the other 2 sensed the solemn atmosphere and did not say anything. They quietly finished their meal and left. The next morning, Chu Li followed Lu Jingjun to Conscience Hall. The bright sunshine shone on the cliff. The thatched cottage exuded a serene aura under the sunlight, as if time had stopped here. Martial Uncle Hua was sitting on the white jade bed in front of the house, lazily basking in the sun. He looked relaxed and content. When he saw the 2 of them coming over, he just smiled and pointed to the opposite side. The 2 of them sat on the rectangular stone opposite him. The wind and frost had polished the stone until it was smooth and round, and it was very comfortable to sit on. Grandmaster, Lu Jingjun did a fist salute. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. Sit, don't talk. Chu Li did a fist salute. Hua Tianyang carefully took out the heart-questioning stone and activated it again. This time, the conscience stone emitted a more threatening black light, which soon enveloped Chu Li. Then, Chu Li began to feel dizzy, but he was still slightly conscious. Hua Tianyang suddenly stopped and pointed at Chu Li's chest. Jingjun, go and see what's on his chest. Lu Jingjun quickly pulled Chu Li's collar and noticed a white jade pendant. He frowned. Grandmaster, is this it? Take it off, Hua Tianyang quickly said. Lu Jingjun used his index and middle fingers to cut the string that tied the jade pendant. Then, he took the white jade pendant and looked at it. His expression kept changing, and finally he sighed. Give it to me, Hua Tianyang said. Lu Jingjun handed it over with both hands. Grandmaster, his mother left this for him. It's not an ordinary item, no wonder. Hua Tianyang sighed. It has the ability to calm one's mind, which can resist the effect of Conscience Hall. It has such a magical effect. Lu Zhengjun was stunned. Hua Tianyang explained, this pendant doesn't look eye-catching, but it's invaluable. Normally, it can only be used to cultivate for an hour, but if one cultivates with this pendant, they'll be able to extend their time by an hour. Moreover, they won't be possessed by the devil. It's a treasure. No wonder he's fine, even though he's cultivating so crazily. Lu Zhengjun came to a sudden realization. He looked at the white jade pendant and shook his head. He really did not expect this. Chu Li was still in a daze, as if he was dreaming. Hua Tianyang said, "Protect me. I'll go in and take a look." "Yes." Lu Zhengjun nodded. Hua Tianyang held the conscience stone tightly in his right hand and placed his left index finger in between Chu Li's eyebrows. He shuddered and was instantly drawn into Chu Li's dream. After experiencing the previous scene, he retracted his finger and held the conscience stone tightly. He was still in the dream, but he was still conscious. He asked Chu Li questions such as, "Do you hate your father? Do you have ill intentions towards Green Deer Cliff? Do you have any masters before this? Who are they? Why did you enter Green Deer Cliff?" Chu Li answered all of them. Once he was done, Hua Tianyang let go the conscience stone and put it back in his pocket. He frowned as he looked at Chu Li. His mind was clear, and the uneasiness disappeared. Hua Tianyang could not help but look at the white jade pendant in Lu Zhengjun's pocket. He nodded as he understood the reason. It was because of the white jade pendant. The jade pendant could keep one's mind clear even if one was in a dream and would not be invaded by evil thoughts. Since the jade pendant had such an effect, Chu Li could not be lured into Green Deer Cliff's inner cliff by someone with ill intentions. "Honorable Master, how is it?" Lu Zhengjun asked. Hua Tianyang answered, "You can enter the inner cliff." "Thank you, Honorable Master." Lu Zhengjun was overjoyed. He stood up and bowed. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. "I see. It's all because of this jade pendant. You must take good care of it. Don't lose it." "Yes." Lu Zhengjun nodded. After some thought, he kept the jade pendant in his pocket. Hua Tianyang smiled without saying a word. Chu Li slowly woke up. Lu Zhengjun smiled. "Hurry up and thank Honorable Master Hua. You've passed." Chu Li was stunned. Then he gave a fist salute. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. "Congratulations, from now on, you're an inner cliff disciple of Green Deer Cliff. Cultivate well. You're more intelligent than others. You'll become an outstanding person in Green Deer Cliff." "Yes." Chu Li nodded calmly. Hua Tianyang waved his hand. "Go, go." Lu Zhengjun bowed again, then led Chu Li down the cliff. Then he laughed out loud. The first person in 100 years. His illegitimate son really lived up to his expectations. He became the first person in 100 years. Chu Li reached out his hand. Lu Zhengjun was stunned. Chu Li uttered, "The jade pendant." Lu Zhengjun said, "I'll keep it for you. You won't need it now anyway." Chu Li frowned at him. Chapter 1196. Chu Li looked askance at him and scoffed. Then he carefully kept the jade pendant in his pocket. Of course, he knew the origin of the jade pendant. However, he used a special technique to change the jade pendant, which was why it had such a magical effect. The original jade pendant did not have such a function. He did this to dispel Hua Tianyang's concerns. After he left Conscience Hall yesterday, he had been thinking of various ways to pass the second round. He wanted to deceive the others, which was why he came up with the jade pendant. He hypnotized himself and created the jade pendant to divert his attention. He was lucky enough to pass the round. "You're an inner cliff disciple now. Follow me," Lu Zhengjun said. Chu Li nodded. Lu Zhengjun brought Yangming up the mountain. Once they passed through a forest, they were greeted by rows upon rows of pavilions and pavilions. They had overhanging eaves and suspended corners, which gave off an antique vibe. It was vast and magnificent. Each of the buildings was about 100 meters tall and towered into the sky. Chu Li felt like he was in Jianan City, which was even more magnificent and beautiful than Jianan City. This place was like heaven and earth compared to the forest at the outer cliff. It was like the difference between the Fu Dynasty's capital, Jianan City, and a remote mountain village. Lu Zhengjun smiled when he saw Chu Li's eyes widen. The outer cliff, is to allow everyone to focus on their cultivation without being disturbed by worldly matters. In the inner cliff, we don't have to worry about worldly matters. Even though it's so luxurious, we can still focus on our cultivation. Shuli nodded. Lu Zhengjun said, "You can walk around and admire the scenery when you're free. It's more magnificent than Fairy's capital. This is a building that has been passed down for thousands of years. It's incomparable to Fairy's capital." Chu Li shook his head. "Where do I stay? I want to cultivate the spirit crane technique as soon as possible." "All right." Lu Zhengjun nodded approvingly. "It seems like you have a brave and diligent heart. Very well, come with me." He brought Chu Li along a small cobblestone path, passing through a quaint and magnificent building before arriving at an elegant and exquisite courtyard. The plum tree in the courtyard was vigorous and strong, as thick as a muscular arm. The faint fragrance of plum blossoms filled the courtyard. "This is your residence." Lu Zhengjun smiled. "How is it? How does it feel?" "Not bad, not bad." Chu Li nodded absent-mindedly. "I live alone?" "Yes." Lu Zhengjun explained. "This way, we won't disturb each other's cultivation. There are people in the courtyards next to you. To your east is Zhao Tianxing, whereas to your west is Su Zhiguang. They're both top-notch figures among the Inner Cliff disciples." Chu Li nodded. "When can I start cultivating the spirit crane technique?" "Tomorrow." Lu Zhengjun said, "Your waist tag will be issued tomorrow, and you'll be able to enter the sutra library with it. You'll be able to practice any martial arts you want, but don't bite off more than you can chew." Chu Li breathed a sigh of relief. "Take a rest and practice your Philip Swift thunder. This finger technique is very ingenious, and it can turn the tide of a battle during crucial moments," Lu Zhengjun said. Chu Li nodded. Lu Zhengjun responded, "It's time for me to cultivate in isolation too. Now that you've entered the inner cliff, I've fulfilled my wish and can cultivate in isolation without any worries. You should be able to handle the rest." Chu Li wanted to say something, but hesitated. He only nodded slowly. Lu Zhengjun smiled, then waved his hand and left. Chu Li frowned as he watched his silhouette disappear through the door. He sighed. Lu Zhengjun finally left, or else Chu Li would always feel uneasy and burdened. He sat by the stone table under the plum tree, took a deep breath, and smiled. His efforts were not in vain. He had finally entered the inner cliff and was able to learn the spirit crane technique. He had taken a solid step on the path to becoming an enlightened master. Chu Li was overjoyed when he thought about this, and he could not wait to return to the High Duke's public house to carry Xiaoqi and spin her around to celebrate. Nonetheless, he dared not act recklessly since he was in the inner cliff, which was closer to the heaven and God pill. Thus, he could only endure it and try not to return for a while. He would learn the spirit crane technique first. Zhao Tianxing stood at the door and gave a fist salute as he laughed. Chu Li did a fist salute. He realized that the Zhao Tianxing inside Green Deer Cliff was completely different from the Zhao Tianxing outside Green Deer Cliff. Zhao Tianxing was frank and generous, and there was no trace of hostility or wariness like before. Instead, Zhao Tianxing was more open. "Junior brother Lu, we're really in the same sect now." Zhao Tianxing smiled. "Ask me anything you don't understand. I'll tell you everything I know." Chu Li gave a fist salute. "Thank you, senior brother Zhao. Junior brother Lu, you'll be the youth champion in the future. I'll have to curry favor with you." Zhao Tianxing smiled. Chu Li shook his head. "You flatter me. Anyone who enters the inner cliff from the outer cliff is the youth champion. Junior brother Lu, you won't be an exception. However, I won't admit defeat. I'll work hard to catch up to you." Zhao Tianxing said. Chu Li said, "Great. You're chasing after me. It's quite interesting." "That's right," Zhao Tianxing said. "I've always been chased by my senior and junior brothers. Now, I finally have to chase after someone else. How interesting." Chu Li smiled. Zhao Tianxing soon left. Chu Li unsheathed his sword and began to cultivate the great heaven-deriving sword. He wanted to integrate the great heaven-deriving sword into his original sword technique. This way, he could balance speed and subtlety. It would be extremely difficult, but if he succeeded, the power of his sword technique would be astonishing. After practicing his sword technique for a while, he began to cultivate Philip's swift thunder. Time flowed like water. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. Early in the morning, when he was practicing his sword technique, Zhao Tianxing came to him again and handed him a wooden tag. The wood was made of a strange material. It was unusually hard and emitted a faint fragrance. Chu Li had the all-knowing scripture, so his sense of smell was unusually sharp. With this wooden tag, he could smell it even from a mile away. Moreover, the smell had a calming effect, so it was obviously not an ordinary wood. It was similar to the legendary sky tree. If it was really this wood, this tag would have many other wonderful uses. Junior brother Liu, let's go. I know you want to go to the sutra library the most. Follow me. Zhao Tianxing said with a smile. Chu Li fist saluted and followed Zhao Tianxing out of the courtyard. After walking for more than a mile, they arrived at a towering building. When he stood downstairs, he noticed that the building was made of black iron. It was towering, and he felt an enormous pressure as he stood below. He felt extraordinarily small and insignificant. What secret manual are you looking for? Zhao Tianxing asked. Chu Li replied, Spirit Crane Technique. Oh, a foundation building technique. Are you going to cultivate green deer, cliffs, martial arts from the beginning? Yes. Are you going to cultivate dancing cranes at the ninth heaven after mastering Spirit Crane Technique? Zhao Tianxing said with a smile. Then you'll have to hurry up. Spirit Crane Technique isn't easy to cultivate. We've all started from a young age and spent several years to cultivate the first level. Chu Li nodded. Logically speaking, the deeper one cultivates Spirit Crane Technique, the easier it is to cultivate dancing cranes at the ninth heaven. Unfortunately, cultivating Spirit Crane Technique is too slow. People usually start cultivating dancing cranes at the first level. How many levels do you plan to cultivate? Perfected, Chu Li replied. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and laughed. Chu Li asked, Senior brother Zhao, why are you laughing? Chapter 1197. Chu Li's expression changed. The last 3 levels are gone. Yes. Zhao Tianxing nodded. Why are they gone? Chu Li frowned. Why are they gone? I think it's a secret. Nobody knows. Zhao Tianxing shook his head. But it doesn't matter because nobody can cultivate to the 6th level. If the Spirit Crane Technique isn't a foundation-building heart technique, nobody will cultivate it. It's slow, time-consuming, and powerless. What's the highest level? Chu Li asked. Zhao Tianxing answered, maybe Master's Junior Ning. He cultivated to the 5th level. 5th level. Chu Li frowned. Why so slow? Is it because of the spiritual energy from heaven and earth? Firstly, it's because of the spiritual energy from heaven and earth. Secondly, we can't see spirit cranes, so we can't obtain their essence. Naturally, there's no way to improve. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and sighed. Green Deer Cliff used to be a gathering place for spirit cranes. Why are the pavilions built so high? It's to attract spirit cranes. Spirit cranes don't like to land on the ground and dislike turbid air. They live in the sky and breathe in fresh air. That's their habit. Chu Li nodded. That was true. The spirit crane's peak was so tall that one could not see the bottom as it was blocked by clouds. Moreover, spirit cranes still perched on the treetops as they disliked turbid air. If there's an abundance of spiritual energy and I see spirit cranes again, can I cultivate the Spirit Crane Technique quickly? Chu Li asked. Zhao Tianxing laughed. Then we can only go back to ancient times. However, the Spirit Crane Technique wasn't a martial art that could be mastered in a short period of time. It requires a lifetime of cultivation. It's profound and contains the truth of heaven and earth. Chu Li nodded slowly, feeling disappointed. Without the last 3 levels of heart technique, it would be useless for him to obtain the Spirit Crane Technique. It would be a waste of effort. Without changing his expression, he followed him into the sutra library. There was nothing different about the scripture pavilion. It was spacious and quiet. There were many antique bookshelves filled to the brim with scrolls. There were many disciples in the pavilion. Some were reading, nodding their heads, and some were carefully searching, their expressions anxious. After Chu Li and Zhao Tianxing entered, they went straight to a bookshelf on the first floor. Zhao Tianxing pointed. Chuli looked over and saw that the spirit crane technique was written on this row of bookshelves. There were almost 1,000 volumes. Some of them were questions about the spirit crane technique. Some were detailed explanations of the spirit crane technique. Some were insights about the spirit crane technique. And some were not questions about the spirit crane technique. There were all sorts of them, but they were all experiences and cultivation guides for the spirit crane technique. Zhao Tianxing said, "Based on my experience, it's best not to look at these insights because they're useless." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and said, "Everyone has their own experiences when cultivating the spirit crane technique. Everyone is different. If you want to learn from someone else, you might go down the wrong path. In the end, you'll realize that it's not suitable for you, and you'll end up wasting your time. Since it's useless, why did you place it here?" Chu Li asked. Zhao Tianxing said, "When you're really puzzled, you can come over and take a look. You can learn from others, but don't practice according to these insights. You have to walk your own path." If that's the case, Chu Li nodded slowly, feeling that it made sense. "I want to take a look at these first." Chu Li pointed. "You should practice first before looking at it," Zhao Tianxing said. Chu Li shook his head. "I want to practice it after looking at it." "All right, up to you." Zhao Tianxing shook his head and smiled. "You're also walking your own path." Chu Li smiled. "Thank you, senior brother Zhao. Go ahead and do what you need to do. Don't worry about me. I'll ask for your help if anything happens." "No problem. We're neighbors anyway," Zhao Tianxing said with a smile. He waved his hand and turned to leave, no longer looking at the books beside him. Chu Li began to read the books eagerly. He first found the original secret manual of the spirit crane technique. There were only 6 levels in total, but he realized that the heart technique was not activated by inner energy. Instead, inner energy was generated and activated through movements. The spirit cranes in the pictures were vivid and lifelike. They were real spirit cranes, which was rare for a secret manual. He had seen many secret manuals, such as the Sun Cultivating White Tiger Portrait and the White Tiger Power. The spirit beasts in the pictures had changed their appearances and were vaguely resembling wild beasts. They had completely lost the spirit, energy, and spirit of spirit beasts. The spirit cranes in the spirit crane technique were no different from real spirit cranes. Unfortunately, one could only see the pictures and not the real cranes, so one could not grasp its essence. Hence, the spirit crane technique was difficult to cultivate. Moreover, it was obvious that inner energy was formed by transforming spiritual energy or directly controlling spiritual energy. Hence, one could not cultivate it without sufficient spiritual energy. The spiritual energy on Green Deer Cliff was 10 times or even more than that of the outside world. However, compared to Spirit Crane's peak, it was more than 100 times more abundant. The difference was too great. Even if there were spirit cranes, it was impossible to cultivate the spirit crane technique with this amount of spiritual energy. After flipping through 6 levels in one go, he closed the secret manual and carefully placed it back in its original place. Then, he closed his eyes and began to simulate in his mind. As he moved slowly, a wisp of fresh air seemed to linger around him. He had previously comprehended the 6 forms of spirit crane and was extremely familiar with the expressions and behaviors of spirit cranes. He also knew their thoughts, so it was much easier for him to cultivate the spirit crane technique than ordinary people. He opened his eyes and continued to read the other insights. He flipped through one book after another and imprinted them into his mind. When he needed to use them, he could just search for them in his mind. Hence, he flipped through them very quickly. By the time the sky turned dark, he had already flipped through the 1,000 volumes of insights. There were still some small techniques that needed time to master. The sutra library was already filled with a gentle, milky, white brilliance. There were luminous pearls hanging everywhere. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. How extravagant. There were so many luminous pearls. Any one of them could be sold outside, and one could live a carefree life. He walked out of the sutra library and returned to the small courtyard without reading any other books. The small courtyard was already brightly lit. Chu Li was stunned. He pushed the door open and saw a delicate and pretty young girl already standing inside. She was cleaning the courtyard. When she saw him, She quickly curtsied. Chu Li was stunned. You are? I'm Su Mei. Greetings, senior brother Lu, the young girl said crisply. Chu Li looked at her in confusion. She was dressed in a green tunic and had a graceful figure. Although she was not extremely beautiful, she was still delicate and lovely. Su Mei said, I was ordered to serve senior brother Lu. Chu Li was even more confused. I'm not an official disciple, Su Mei said. I'm not talented, so I can only be a maid. Then why did you come to Green Deer Cliff? My parents are disciples of Green Deer Cliff, Su Mei said. She spoke slowly, softly, and calmly. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Then who would dare to let you serve them? What does that matter? Su Mei said. I can't just sit around and do nothing. I have to help the cliff. All right, Chu Li nodded. The children of Green Deer Cliff disciples might not necessarily be talented. Since Green Deer Cliff was very strict in accepting disciples, the children of these disciples could not be thrown out of Green Deer Cliff. It would be too unreasonable. They could only stay on the island. They could not become disciples of Green Deer Cliff and could only be maids or scribes. However, it was obvious that the status of these maids would not be low. After all, their parents were around, so they had to show respect for Green Deer Cliff. Su Mei left with light footsteps and soon returned with a box of rice. She placed 4 dishes and 2 soups on it. After Chu Li finished eating, he left the small courtyard and strolled outside to familiarize himself with Green Deer Cliff. Chapter 1198. Along the way, he did not run into many Green Deer Cliff disciples. Most of them were young men, and even middle-aged men were rare. He did not see any children or elders either. It was as if there were only young people on this island. He vaguely guessed that the old man and the child did not live here, but on another island. Such a huge island was only a part of Green Deer Cliff. This made him even more curious about Green Deer Cliff. It seemed that there were many mysteries to uncover. Nonetheless, he did not want to dig too deep. The key was still the spirit crane technique. He only came to Green Deer Cliff to obtain the spirit crane technique and was not in a hurry to learn other martial arts. The antique studies that he had cultivated were enough, so there was no need for him to be greedy. He was already able to enter the Sutra Library of Great Light Peak and read through the books in the library one by one. However, he did not flip through too many pages lest he got distracted and wasted his energy, neglecting the antique studies that he was currently cultivating. Although the Sutra Library of Green Deer Cliff was better than the Sutra Library of Great Light Peak, he did not intend to read all of them. He only chose one and cultivated it to perfection. Then, he would think of a way to obtain the other heart techniques and cultivate them to perfection. He realized that this path was extremely difficult and time-consuming. He had to race against time and could not afford to waste any time. When he returned to the courtyard, Su Mei was no longer there. She only came to clean up during meal times and spent the rest of her time cultivating martial arts. Although her aptitude was average, she was still far better than ordinary people. After all, Green Deer Cliff had an excellent environment and a foundation built with spirit herbs. Ordinary people could not compare to them. Even the weakest among them could become a grandmaster. Chu Li spent the next few days cultivating the spirit crane technique and realized that his progress was extremely slow. As he practiced the spirit crane technique, clear air slowly surrounded him. This clear air was the source of spiritual energy, which continuously nourished his body and circulated in a unique way. Through the circulation of this spiritual energy, he noticed that his turbid air gradually decreased and his body became lighter. This feeling was different from the lightness of the wind speed pill. The wind speed pill made the body lighter and faster, while the spirit crane technique made the body lighter and more flexible. He was slightly impatient. This kind of cultivation was really a waste of time. The next morning, he knocked on the door of Zhao Tianxing's courtyard. Zhao Tianxing was practicing his fist technique in the courtyard. When he saw Chu Li, he stopped and smiled. You've seen the spirit crane technique. Junior brother Lu, you've cultivated it too, right? How do you feel? Too slow. Chu Li shook his head. Zhao Tianxing chuckled. It's better for you now. After all, your mind is strong. When we cultivated when we were young, it was extremely painful. Chu Li said, I want to know where the other 3 floors have gone and if I can find them. We really can't come into contact with this. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and said, as far as I know, he was taken away by a disciple and never returned. He ended up wandering outside. As for which disciple, I'm not sure. It's a taboo in Green Deer Cliff. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Betrayed Green Deer Cliff? It's very likely. Zhao Tianxing sighed and said, he seems to be the only one who betrayed the sect, so no one mentioned him. That means it's still possible to find it, Chu Li said. Zhao Tianxing shook his head. We would have done a long time ago if we could. Our sect isn't weak. It's just that we've been holding back all this while. We're not inferior to the Tempest Temple and the Titanium Temple. Chu Li asked, then who is it? No one can tell you. Zhao Tianxing said, it's better not to ask. It's impossible to find it anyway. As for perfecting the spirit crane technique, that's a pipe dream. You should cultivate the 6th level first. Chu Li nodded slowly. I want to go down the mountain. Zhao Tianxing was stunned. Chu Li smiled embarrassedly. I'm a little homesick. Theoretically, inner cliff disciples can't go down the mountain as they please. Among the young disciples, I'm the only one who has gone down the mountain once. The others haven't. Zhao Tianxing shook his head and said, but you're the youth champion now, so it's not a problem. Chu Li smiled. Can I really go down the mountain? Are you going back to Tide Listening Pavilion to tell them the good news? Zhao Tianxing asked. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Zhao Tianxing said, I'll ask them for you. Thank you, Senior Brother Zhao. You're welcome. Zhao Tianxing left in a hurry and returned after 15 minutes. He nodded with a smile. No problem. You could go down the mountain, but you must bring your waist tag with you. Don't lose it, or you won't be able to return to Green Deer Cliff. Okay. Chu Li smiled. Chu Li went back to meet He Shu and the others first before he left Green Deer Cliff. He sailed a small boat and finally returned to the seaside. Then, he returned to the High Duke's public house's Jade Guardian Island. Jade Guardian Island was bustling with activity. The sound of a gouging could be heard while maids were trimming dead branches. Winter had arrived. Although Jade Guardian Island was as warm as spring, the leaves had begun to wither, and some of the flowers had also started to wither. Most of the flowers were still blooming. These were rare plants that only bloomed in winter. Winter was usually a bleak time, but the flowers made the atmosphere more lively and brighter. Following the sound of the gouging, Chu Li arrived at the stargazing tower. Xiao Qi was playing the gouging with her head lowered. Chu Li sat on an embroidered stool and admired her graceful figure. Her elegant movements were pleasing to the eyes and ears. The sound of the gouging suddenly rose and stopped. She turned to look at him. Chu Li smiled. Why are you in a bad mood? From the sound of the gouging, he could tell that Xiao Qi was unhappy about something. The people from Secret Guardians Hall are here. Xiao Qi scoffed. Chu Li frowned. They've gone too far. It seems like His Highness the Crown Prince wants me to make a fool of myself. How should we deal with it? Xiao Qi asked. You haven't been back for a while. Have you entered the inner cliff? They've entered. Chu Li smiled. It was very thrilling. We should just shut them out. Do they still dare to barge in? It looks like they're going to barge in. Xiao Qi frowned. I can't make up my mind. Leave it to me. Chu Li nodded. I'll go and meet them myself. Forget it. Xiao Qi shook her head. Once you show up, there'll be no turning back. That's good too. Just chase them away. Chu Li scoffed. If they want to barge in, break their legs. Won't they be too tough if their legs are broken? Xiao Qi said. They're too arrogant. We should be tough. Chu Li said. Are they going to do something just because the High Duke's public house is arrogant? That's true. Xiao Qi slowly nodded. She knew that once Chu Li quarreled with His Highness the Crown Prince, he would definitely vent his anger on the Yi public house. Chu Li and the Yi public house were one, and it was difficult to separate them. Chu Li said, Madam, can you help me find out if there's a disciple who betrayed Green Deer Cliff? A disciple of Green Deer Cliff won't betray, right? Xiao Qi asked. Chu Li shook his head. There was one who betrayed Green Deer Cliff and took away the spirit crane technique of Green Deer Cliff. Yes, I'll ask Aunt for you. Xiao Qi nodded. Chu Li said, Aunt might not know. I'll have to ask someone else. Let's try. Chapter 1199. Early in the morning, Chuli let go of the soft and fragrant Shao Chi and got off the bed. With Schwelling's help, he washed up and left the public house. He went to the main street of Chongming Town and enjoyed the bustle of the morning. It was early in the morning when Chongming Town was the busiest. People came and went, and the aroma of various snacks on the street mixed together, forming the unique morning smell of Chongming Town. He had not been here for a long time. He had been busy and fighting nonstop. He could not calm down to experience daily life and enjoy the ordinary pleasures. He strolled along the street, avoiding the running children, and slowly arrived at the best restaurant in Chongming Town, Sky Inn. He sat at a table near the window and called for the waiter to serve breakfast. He placed 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks on the table. The waiter obviously recognized Chuli. He greeted him respectfully and quickly served the food. When Chuli was halfway through his meal, unique footsteps could be heard. Fa Yuan floated over, his gray cowl fluttering in the wind. His handsome bald head shone brightly, reflecting his gaze. He had the demeanor of an eminent monk. Chuli looked at him. Fa Yuan's advancement was very fast, and his cultivation level had increased by a large margin. He waved his hand, and Fa Yuan came closer. He bowed with pressed palms. Ba, Brother Chu, how was it? Did you find out? Chuli bowed and pointed opposite him. Fa Yuan sat opposite him, picked up his chopsticks, and started eating. It was a table full of vegetarian dishes. Fa Yuan ate a mouthful of vegetables, put down his chopsticks, and nodded. I did not disappoint you. I found out. Chuli was excited. Tell me, is there really a traitor? There will be traitors in every faction, except for the Titanium Temple. Fa Yuan shook his head. But why do you want to investigate him? I'm curious. I also heard that this traitor seems to have taken some martial arts secret manuals from Green Deer Cliff, so I want to get them, Chuli said. Then I advise you to stop thinking about it. Fa Yuan smiled. This traitor is an enlightened master. Enlightened master? Chuli was surprised. No wonder Green Deer Cliff kept it a secret and became a taboo. He was an enlightened master. Fa Yuan smiled. He was one of the last masters to become an enlightened master. From then on, the spirit beasts entered the 100,000 hills, and no one was able to cultivate the spirit beast technique to become an enlightened master. The path to becoming an enlightened master was completely changed. Chuli frowned. So, it was 1,000 years ago? Exactly. Fa Yuan nodded. His surname is Zhu, and his full name is Zhu Liang. He has a stubborn temper, but he is brave and diligent. In the end, he became an enlightened master, but his whereabouts are unknown. As for the secret manual that you mentioned, I'm afraid it has completely disappeared. Not a single clue. Chuli frowned. Is it possible that he hid the secret manual? Who knows? Fa Yuan shook his head and sighed. These enlightened masters are unpredictable. How can we understand them? Perhaps it has already been destroyed. Do you think he's still alive? Chuli asked. Of course. An enlightened master's lifespan is extremely long, but he's definitely not in this realm. He must have gone to the Outland, Fa Yuan said. Chuli frowned. If that's the case, it's impossible to find him. Impossible. Fa Yuan shook his head. Forget it. Chuli remained silent. When Fa Yuan saw his expression, he knew that he had not given up, but there was nothing he could do. What other clues do you have about him? Chuli asked. His usual behavior, temperament, and so on. Tell me everything about him. Fa Yuan said. This Zhu Liang is very stubborn and arrogant. He has offended many people, but in the end, he became an enlightened master. No one could do anything to him. I only know that he has always been a loner and has no friends. Chuli slowly nodded. Fa Yuan sighed. What secret manual did he steal? Chuli said, I think it's the spirit crane technique. You want to cultivate the spirit crane technique? Fa Yuan was shocked. The spirit crane technique is not suitable for cultivation. The spiritual energy in this realm has dried up, and this type of spirit beast martial arts is no longer suitable for cultivation. The 4 elements are empty, and everything has its own life and death. The spirit beast martial arts are already perishable martial arts. Your current martial arts are 100 times stronger than the spirit crane technique. Chuli shook his head. I'm just curious. Don't be too smart for your own good. Forget about the spirit crane technique, Fa Yuan advised. Chuli said, I still want to give it a try. If I can't secretly learn it from Green Deer Cliff, it's not a bad idea to look for this enlightened master. I'll keep an eye on it, Fa Yuan said. Chuli smiled. Thank you, thank you. The two of them chatted for a while more before Fa Yuan bid farewell and left in a carefree manner. After Chuli finished his meal, he went down the Sky Inn and slowly walked back along the main street. When he was halfway there, four grandmasters suddenly jumped out from the side and rushed straight at Chuli. They were so fast that their faces could not be seen clearly. They were ruthless and wanted to take his life. Chuli frowned. Suddenly, a shadow appeared around him as if he had turned into a few people. Bam, 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 bam. With a series of muffled sounds, the four grandmasters flew out. Two of them flew to the east while the other two flew to the west. They flew more than 20 meters away and landed heavily on the bluestone road, making a loud thud. Chuli then swung his hand, and 4 streams of light shot into the dantian of the 4 people. Ah! They screamed in pain, without the restraint of grandmasters. They clutched their abdomens and stared at Chuli. Chuli said, If you use force in Chongming Town, your martial arts will be crippled and you will be expelled from the town. No exceptions. His voice was calm and unhurried, like the rising tide, spreading out slowly, without missing a single detail. In the end, his voice spread throughout the entire Chongming Town, showing off his amazing inner energy cultivation. Everyone who heard it was amazed. Chuli continued, Protectors of the House of High Dukes, throw them out of the town. Yes, someone shouted from afar. There were many protectors of the House of High Dukes patrolling the main street. They all recognized Chuli. When they heard his words, they quickly ran forward and picked up the 4 people on the ground and ran away. They even covered their mouths. Chuli nodded in approval. It was obvious that these protectors knew who these 4 people were. Chuli continued to walk forward. People made way for him and greeted him. Chuli nodded at them one by one. Chuli was known to everyone in Chongming Town. Even if they had never met him, they would know his name. Chuli of the North and Du Feng of the South. After Du Feng assassinated King En and escaped from the hands of the Emperor, he disappeared without a trace. Du Feng became even more famous. Chuli and Du Feng were equally famous. Everyone in Chongming Town was proud of Chuli, and they talked about him enthusiastically. Whenever Chuli made any movements or news, they would hear about it. Everyone gathered together and discussed it. Chuli became the head chief of the imperial residence of King En and offended the emperor. He was sent to the imperial mausoleum and then returned to the fairies' capital. This series of events was extremely legendary in their eyes, and they loved to talk about it. Chuli slowly walked back to the House of High Dukes. Xiaoqi was practicing her swordsmanship in the garden of the Jade Guardian Island. Chuli stood at the side and watched. Xiaoqi's swordsmanship was elegant and very charming. He watched it as if it was a dance. After a while, Xiaoqi put away her sword. Her graceful body was full of energy, and her face was stunning. Chuli smiled. Don't worry about the people from the Secret Guardians Hall. Chapter 1200. Chuli smiled. I didn't expect them to be this stupid. They really haven't improved. The reason why he leisurely walked to the sky and without using God's limbs was to attract the attention of the people from the Secret Guardians Hall. Initially, he did not hold much hope. After all, the Secret Guardians Hall was not the same as before. They were not as arrogant as they used to be. After being taught a lesson by C.O. Sure, they had completely lost their drive. He was just holding on to a sliver of hope that he could sense the aura of Chongming Town at the same time. He did not expect that after Guyu took over as the commander, the Secret Guardians would revert to their old ways and return to their original arrogance. Perhaps it was because they had left Fairy's capital. They felt that no one would dare to provoke them. Hence, they became arrogant again and actually made a move against him. They wanted to teach him a lesson. This was exactly what he wanted. Without waiting for them to speak, he would immediately cripple their martial arts and throw them out of Chongming Town. Even if they were to sue the emperor, he would still be in the right. For Grandmasters were an important force no matter where they were placed. The fact that the Secret Guardians Hall had lost 4 Grandmasters at once was enough to give Guyu a headache. Guyu wanted to make things difficult for him and teach the Crown Prince a lesson at the same time. This made him feel good. Lu Yurong would not let go of this opportunity. What happened? Xiao Qi asked worriedly. Chuli told her everything that had happened. Xiao Qi shook her head and frowned. We've really offended the Crown Prince this time. Chuli smiled. He doesn't want us to have an easy time. We can't just sit and wait. We have to teach him a lesson. I'm just afraid that he won't accept it and will continue to cause trouble. Xiao Qi frowned. We'll deal with it when it comes. Chuli smiled. Don't worry. It won't be life-threatening. It's just a small fight. Your swordsmanship has improved a lot. It seems to have reached another level. It's heartless when you're deeply in love. Xiao Qi sighed. She was worried. If she continued to train like this, she really did not know what would happen to her. Chu Li said, then let's take it slow. But there's no need to suppress it too much. Let nature take its course. Yes, that's the only way. Xiao Qi nodded. Bang! A celadon teacup was smashed to the ground. It was smashed into pieces, and the porcelain pieces scattered everywhere. In the main hall of the Crown Prince's residence, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Crown Prince Lung Jinghua paced back and forth angrily with his hands behind his back. His bright yellow robe fluttered in the wind, but his face was tense and his eyes were burning with anger. The surrounding guards were as silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to move at all, as if they had been immobilized. A little maid at the door lifted the hem of her dress, walked down the stairs, and ran out. Lung Jinghua glared at the young man who was standing with his head lowered. He sneered. Guyu, how dare you? The green-robed young man groaned in his heart. He raised his head and had a helpless expression on his face. That's what Commander Gu said. I'm just following orders. I hope your highness will forgive me. Guyu is getting more and more impudent. Lung Jinghua smirked. He's becoming more and more incompetent. How could he cause such a mess over such a small matter? What a joke. Yes. The green-robed youth lowered his head and said, Go back and tell him to come see me. Lung Jinghua scoffed. The green-robed youth quickly nodded. Lu Yurong, who was dressed in a white gown, gracefully stepped into the living room. After curtsying, she approached Lung Jinghua and asked, Uncle-in-law, what happened? Guyu sent a secret guardian to Chongming Town to assassinate Chu Li in the town. Chu Li crippled his martial arts. Lung Jinghua sneered and scoffed. He's a good-for-nothing, Lu Yurong said. Why did he attack Chu Li in Chongming Town? Don't they know the rules of Chongming Town? She was also a member of the High Duke's public house. If anyone attacked in Green Mountain Town, they would be crippled of their martial arts and thrown out of the town. It was an iron law that every martial artist had to follow. There are no exceptions, or else they would lose their prestige. Lung Jinghua scoffed. They think that they don't have to follow the rules because they're secret guardians. They also look down on the High Duke's public house, thinking that the rules of the High Duke's public house can't restrict them. What's worse is that they think they can control Chu Li. Lu Yurong shook her head. Could it be a top-notch master? Of course it's a top-notch master, Lung Jinghua said. But what's the use of a top-notch master in front of Chu Li? I heard that they didn't even have time to speak before their martial arts were crippled by Chu Li in one move. They didn't even have the chance to reveal their identity or say a word. Lu Yurong sighed softly. It's a stupid thing to do. Could it be Commander Gu's order? Even if it's not his order, it's still his responsibility. Lung Jinghua took a deep breath and sat back in his armchair. The scribes and protectors around him sighed in relief and dared to move. They sighed to themselves. Miss Lu is indeed useful. Lu Yurong said, Forget it. Since things have come to this, there's no point talking about it anymore. Let's call the secret guardians back. Don't go to the High Duke's public house. The public house isn't what it used to be. The secret guardians hall won't be able to get any benefits. Are we going to return with our tails between our legs? The young man in green whispered. The commander said he's not satisfied. Then we'll suffer even more. Let's retreat while we can, Lu Yurong said. Yes, I'll tell the commander, the young man in green replied. Go, go. Lung Jinghua impatiently waved his hand and sent the young man away. Lung Jinghua sighed. This Guyu, he doesn't even respect me now. Lu Yurong said, Uncle-in-law, we still need to control the Secret Guardian's Hall, or else we'll be tied down. The Secret Guardian's Hall is our eyes and ears. Without them, we'll be blind and deaf. We'll be deceived by everyone. Lung Jinghua shook his head. Guyu only has eyes for the emperor. He doesn't listen to me at all. Then let's replace him. Lu Yurong said. Ever since he took office, he's been making stupid moves. He's not suitable to be the commander. Replace him? Lung Jinghua was stunned. He had never thought about this before. He only wanted to subdue Guyu and make him listen to him. Lu Yurong said, the Secret Guardian's Hall is too important. If we can't replace him, we'll be harmed in the future. While the emperor doesn't have any other thoughts, we should try our best to take this position. Commander, Lung Jinghua remained silent. His expression was uncertain as he thought about the pros and cons. The Secret Guardian's Hall had always been the emperor's private army. They were directly appointed by the emperor, and outsiders had no right to interfere. Hence, they had a high status and great influence. Their ears and eyes were especially sharp as they had infiltrated almost every imperial court official's home. If this power was not controlled by the emperor would not be at ease if it fell into the hands of others. If it were to be harmed, the damage would be too great. If he wanted to obtain this power, what would the emperor think? Would he think that he was too greedy or dissatisfied with the imperial court? Lu Yurong said, in less than 10 years, the emperor will probably let you do whatever you want. The Secret Guardian's Hall is the most important force. With the Secret Guardian's Hall, you'll be aware of the slightest movement in the imperial court. You'll be able to eliminate your opponents. Chapter 1201. Lu Yurong smiled. Uncle-in-law, what do you think of me? You want to be the commander of a Secret Guardian's Hall? Lung Jinghua was surprised. Lu Yurong nodded and said, Uncle-in-law, I really don't trust others. This position is too important. If they have the slightest bit of disloyalty or have other thoughts, they might ruin your plans, and I'm the best at this. That's true. Lung Jinghua nodded. Lu Yurong's talent in using spies was amazing. It was said that Chu Li was also an excellent spy, but he had never seen it for himself. To him, no one was better than her. Lu Yurong said, Guyu is muddle-headed and incompetent. He's narrow-minded and can't tolerate others. Look at how long he's been the commander, and he's already messed up the Secret Guardian's Hall. Lung Jinghua scoffed. He was also very dissatisfied with the current state of the Secret Guardian's Hall. It was far from what it used to be. It was as if there were two different groups of people. The current Secret Guardian's Hall could not be expected to take on big responsibilities. If there was a big case, they might have to look for Chu Li. With their abilities and mutual restraints, it was impossible to solve a case. Lu Yurong said, even if you don't let me come, it's best to take down Guyu and replace him with a more suitable person. The emperor is meticulous, and he must have seen through Guyu's capabilities. He won't be too insistent. Uncle-in-law, you might be able to replace him. All right, I'll talk to my father. Lung Jinghua said, try to get you to be the commander. Lu Yurong said, as far as I know, the Mei Air courtyard that Chu Li originally belonged to was only outwardly obedient to Guyu. They didn't listen to him at all. On the other hand, the people in the Mei Air courtyard are all elites. Without the Mei Air courtyard, the Secret Guardian's Hall strength has dropped significantly. Yes, I heard about it too. Lung Jinghua nodded. Lu Yurong smiled. If I become the commander, Mei Air courtyard will be pulled over. That's great, Lung Jinghua said. Lu Yurong said, there's also Chu Li. Guyu can't defeat him. It's useless to give him more people. Sigh. This Chu Li. Lung Jinghua shook his head. He was now very disgusted with Chu Li. Chu Li was arrogant and domineering, but there was nothing he could do, and he could not control him. After he hid in the public house, he was like a tortoise in its shell. There was nothing he could do. It was not easy to lure him out of his shell. Lu Yurong smiled and said, Uncle-in-law, you don't have to worry. I will think of a way to deal with Chu Li and make him suffer. Yes, you're the only one who can deal with him, Lung Jinghua said. Guyu sat in the main hall of the Secret Guardian's Hall with a gloomy expression. The green-robed youth stood in front of him with his head lowered, not saying a word. Guyu sneered. What a great crown prince. He's really awe-inspiring. He's not even the emperor yet. Commander, be careful with your words. He is the future emperor. The green-robed youth hurriedly said. Humph, Guyu said disdainfully. He's not even the emperor yet, but he already has the airs of an emperor. How can he order around the Secret Guardian's Hall? It's already unprecedented for me to show him some respect, but he's still not satisfied and even dares to blame me. Commander, we should think about how to deal with Chu Li, the green-robed youth said. If we don't take him down, the Secret Guardian's Hall will lose face. Will he stay in the High Duke's public house for the rest of his life? I'm not afraid of staying in the High Duke's public house. Guyu sneered and scoffed. Go to May Air Courtyard and get Yang Zongwen here. The green-robed youth quickly responded and hurried out. Yang Zongwen quickly returned and gave a fist salute with a calm expression. Commander, I order everyone in May Air Courtyard to go to Chongming Town's public house and invite Chu Li back. Guyu said coldly. Yang Zongwen was stunned. Invite Head Chief Chu? That's right. Guyu scoffed. This shouldn't be difficult, right? I'm not making things difficult for you, right? Based on your relationship with Chu Li, it should be easy. If you can't do it, don't blame me for being rude. Yang Zongwen nodded. Yes, we'll accept the order. Very well. Guyu's expression softened. I'll only give you a month. Is that lenient enough? Yang Zongwen gave a fist salute. We'll depart immediately. Very well. Guyu waved his hand. The sooner you return, the better my reward will be. Yang Zongwen gave a fist salute and strode away. The green-robed youth watched him leave and asked hesitantly, Commander, how can they capture Chu Li? No matter how they do it, it's fine as long as Chu Li is back. Guyu sneered. As long as he's back, he'll have a taste of his own medicine. Ha! The green-robed youth laughed. Yes, we have conclusive evidence. He can't deny it. When Yang Zongwen returned to May Air Courtyard, Dong Qifei, Qin Jin, and the others were there. After listening to Yang Zongwen, Dong Qifei scolded Guyu for being sinister and despicable. Qin Jin smiled. This is a good opportunity. Let's go to Chongming Town. I've heard a lot about the public house, but never had the chance to meet them. If we go, will the centurion come back or not? Dong Qifei scoffed. We'll make things difficult for the centurion. There's no need to make things difficult for the centurion. Qin Jin shook his head. We can go there as guests. If we go, the rest of the Secret Guardian's Hall won't have to go and cause trouble for the centurion. It'll be interesting to be a guest at the public house. Yang Zongwen smiled. They quickly left Fairy's capital together. They used their light body technique to travel faster than a galloping horse. They arrived at Chongming Town on the evening of the second day. Chu Li personally went out of town to welcome them and brought them to his island in the public house. Centurion, I heard that he has solid evidence of you colluding with the Holy Church of Light, Yang Zongwen said. As the sun set in the west, they sat in Chu Li's courtyard. The air was exceptionally fresh, and the sunset glow illuminated the courtyard with a hint of red. Chu Li laughed. I colluded with a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. Yes. Yang Zongwen nodded. Judging from Guyu's expression, it's not fake. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Qin Jin said, Centurion, tell us the truth. Is there such a thing? Chu Li glared at him impatiently. Qin Jin chuckled. Even if Centurion colluded with the Holy Church of Light, we won't say anything. Chu Li said, Don't you know how deep my hatred for the Holy Church of Light is? Even if I wanted to collude, the Holy Church of Light would have to agree to it. Then why does he have evidence? Qin Jin said, Guyu isn't shrewd enough. One look and you can tell that the evidence is real. Chu Li waved his hand. I like to see what evidence he has. Chu Li frowned worriedly. Guyu seemed to be fooled by him, as if he was an idiot. In fact, he was not stupid at all. In fact, he was very clever. The evidence was definitely not fake. However, what evidence did Chu Li and the Holy Church of Light have that made him so sure? After thinking about it, he thought of Fu Mengshan. Only 3 people knew that he went undercover in the Holy Church of Light. He trusted Su Huanda, but not Fu Mengshan. If someone leaked the secret, it could only be Fu Mengshan. He could not sit still when he thought about it. If his identity was exposed, all his previous efforts would go to waste. Moreover, it would be a huge problem. Centurion, if you have something to do, you should go ahead and do it. Let's take a break and go to the town tomorrow, Qin Jin said. Chuli nodded. All right, you don't have to be so polite since you're here. I have something to take a look at first. Yes, everyone fist saluted. Chapter 1202. P.S. The internet was cut off. I was in the countryside, and I was in a hurry to write. I didn't have time to go to the city to find internet, so I could only write first. I'm really sorry. After leaving the small courtyard, he suddenly disappeared and reappeared in the adjacent city of the Imperial Mausoleum. At this moment, he had changed into another appearance. He was a middle-aged man with a haggard face and a skinny figure. He was only at the level of an innate expert. His eyes were bright, and he wouldn't be too conspicuous in the crowd, nor would he be too ordinary. He walked slowly to Su Huanda's courtyard and gently knocked on the door. As soon as he arrived at adjacent town, he could already see Su Huanda's small courtyard. Everything within a 5-kilometer radius appeared in his mind. His and Xiao Qi's courtyard was still empty and unoccupied, but it was very clean. It was obvious that it was frequently cleaned. Although he was no longer in adjacent town, he still left some forces here under Xiao Qi's control. They were incorporated into the High Duke's public house, so any news would reach Xiao Qi at any time. Su Huanda was practicing his swordsmanship when he heard the knock on the door. He called out, "Come in." When Chu Li entered Su Huanda's door, he returned to his original appearance. He gave a fist salute and smiled. "Commander Su." "Chu Li?" Su Huanda was surprised. He hurriedly came forward and cupped his fists. "Why are you here?" "I have something to ask," Chu Li said. The two of them sat at the stone table in the courtyard. Chu Li looked around and smiled. "Commander, we should move to another courtyard. This place is too cramped." "It's okay. I'm used to it." Su Huanda shook his head and smiled. "It's fine as long as we have a place to stay. There's no need to be so particular about it." "Chu Li, how did you find the time to come here?" Although he was an adjacent town and was isolated from the outside world, he knew that once Chu Li left adjacent town, he would be like a dragon returning to the sea. He would not be idle at all. Chu Li was a busy man. Since it was rare for him to return to adjacent town, something big must have happened. "I'm looking for Commander Fu," Chu Li said. "Why can't I see him? Could he have entered the inner mausoleum?" "Old Fu." Su Huanda frowned and his face darkened. Chu Li immediately knew that something was wrong. He frowned and asked, "Did something happen to Commander Fu?" "Old Fu is dead." Su Huanda sighed and shook his head. He was stabbed to death in his own courtyard. "When did this happen?" Chu Li's expression changed. Su Huanda sighed. "It's been half a month." Chu Li frowned. If Xiao Qi received the news, she would probably tell him. Even though he no longer had any relationship with Fu Mengshan, they were still related to each other. They were not strangers. It seemed that the situation in adjacent town had changed. Su Huanda said, "Old Fu is already prepared for this. It's inevitable." "The Emperor?" Chu Li scoffed. Su Huanda nodded slowly. "If the Emperor still wants to use Old Fu, he will show mercy. If he doesn't want to use him anymore, then he won't let him live." Su Huanda said plainly, "Old Fu knows too much that he shouldn't." "Is it really the Emperor?" Chu Li frowned. "It can't be an imposter, right?" "Hard to say." Su Huanda shook his head. "He's already dead. He's no longer a commander, and he's just a sinner. So what if he's dead? He won't be able to cause any trouble, and no one will investigate this matter." Chu Li scoffed. "I like to check it out. Elder Fu has already been laid to rest. It's not a good idea to disturb him," Su Huanda said. "Let's just forget about it. He has already been reincarnated, so why bother with him?" Chu Li did not say anything. Su Huanda suddenly came to a realization. He shook his head and laughed. He had been living comfortably here for so long that he became a little slow. Chu Li was a smart person. Why would he look for Fu Mengshan for no reason? It must be something serious. "But if you really want to know, there's no harm in checking it out," Su Huanda said. "I also want to know if it's really the Emperor." Chu Li looked up at him and shook his head with a smile. Commander Su, you've changed. Su Huanda smiled. Without the pressure of duty, I'm not that insensible. All right, why are you looking for old Fu? I heard that Guyu found concrete evidence that I'm colluding with the Holy Church of Light. Chu Li's face darkened. Su Huanda frowned. He still won't let you go? This guy doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Su Huanda frowned. Chu Li said, he doesn't have any other skills, but he's extremely tenacious. He suffered losses and was taught a lesson, but he still came back time and time again. He has some redeeming qualities. How is that possible? Su Huanda frowned. Did you really collude with the Holy Church of Light? What do you think? Chu Li scoffed. You suspect that the spy was leaked? Su Huanda's expression changed. Chu Li slowly nodded. Only the three of us know about this. Commander Su, you won't leak it, but I can't say for sure about Commander Fu. It's very likely that Guyu dug out something from Commander Fu. You suspect that Guyu assassinated Commander Fu. If Guyu did it, it would be the same as the Emperor doing it. No one would be able to tell that he was abusing his official position for personal gain. It's even harder to tell if Commander Fu was involved. I'm afraid. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. A person like Fu Mengshan would grasp at any straw in desperation. Even if he could not escape in the end, he might not want others to have an easy time. He might leak the fact that he had disguised himself as Zhao Dai and infiltrated the Holy Church of Light to find a scapegoat. Fu Mengshan and Su Huanda were completely different people. It was very possible that they would do such a thing. Su Huanda frowned. That's possible. What should we do? This was the first time Chu Li infiltrated the Holy Church of Light. If this was leaked, not only would all his previous efforts be wasted, he would also implicate more people. Even if Chu Li was in the Holy Church of Light, it was impossible that he did not have any friends. Moreover, he was already an official with a group of loyal subordinates. If Chu Li's identity was leaked, these people would not end up well. Chu Li shook his head. I hope that Commander Fu didn't tell Guyu. I hope that Commander Fu didn't leak this out. Why don't I test Guyu first? Su Huanda suggested. Chu Li quickly waved his hand. It's better that you don't get involved in this. Su Huanda said, this isn't a small matter. Moreover, Guyu is a despicable person who doesn't see the big picture. If you don't listen to him, he'll definitely spread the news. Chu Li said, I have my ways. Do you really have a way? Su Huanda frowned. Chu Li slowly said, this matter ends here. I've never been here, and you've never seen me. Understood. Su Huanda slowly nodded and hesitated for a moment. Don't take the risk. Guyu can't be killed. After all, he had been Chu Li's superior before. He had a deep understanding of Chu Li's fearlessness and audacity. He was afraid that Chu Li would use the simplest method to kill Guyu. That would be troublesome. After all, Guyu was the Emperor's confidant and the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. It would be a huge joke if the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall was killed. Chu Li smiled. Su Huanda looked at him and sighed helplessly. He did not try to persuade him, as it was useless. Chu Li waved his hand and suddenly disappeared. He appeared in the garden of the Jade Guardian Island. He sat by the stone table and watched Xiao Qi practice her swordsmanship. After a while, Xiao Qi stopped practicing and sat next to him. She looked at him and noticed that he had something on his mind. What's wrong? Do you know that Fu Mengshan was assassinated? Xiao Qi frowned. When did this happen? Half a month ago. Chu Li shook his head. It seems like we can't control adjacent town anymore. I'll look into it later. Xiao Qi said, how could that be? The Emperor? Chu Li sighed. Most likely. Chapter 1203. The backyard of the Crown Prince's residence. The setting sun illuminated the back garden with a bright red glow, adding a touch of tenderness and beauty. Lu Yurong was sitting in a small courtyard in the backyard, reading a scroll. Her expression was calm and peaceful. The 9 girls were scattered around her, busy with their own tasks. Some watered the flowers, some cut the grass, some practiced martial arts, and some were reading. They surrounded her in the middle, forming a formation. Lung Jinghua strode to the backyard, entered the gazebo, and sat opposite her. Lu Yurong was dressed in white. She slowly put down her book and looked at Lung Jinghua. Uncle-in-law, Is there anything urgent? Gu Yu is dead, Lung Jinghua said in a deep voice. He took out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat off his forehead. Normally, a master like him would not sweat even if he was in a hurry. However, Lung Jinghua was drenched in sweat as if he had run all the way here. Lu Yurong was stunned and asked in surprise, "Dead? I heard he was assassinated by a disciple from the Holy Church of Light." Lung Jinghua shook his head. They're searching the entire city to find this disciple from the Holy Church of Light. Lu Yurong frowned. How'd he die so easily? His martial arts are weak. Lung Jinghua said, "It's not reliable to rely on the protectors. But the Holy Church of Light has gone too far. How dare they assassinate the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall?" Lu Yurong said, "Of course the Holy Church of Light is bold. They don't respect the great Ji dynasty at all. They won't be able to catch the murderer. The disciples of the Holy Church of Light have a secret technique that can conceal their martial arts." Sigh, this is so embarrassing. Lung Jinghua scoffed. **Mn Guyu. Lu Yurong asked, "Can he be saved?" "He can't be saved." Lung Jinghua shook his head. "This person is ruthless. He shattered his brain. He can't be saved even with spirit medicine." "Yurong, do you really want to be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall?" "I can try," Lu Yurong said. "I won't have to worry about being assassinated if I'm the commander." Lung Jinghua nodded. Lu Yurong's martial arts was top-notch among the younger generation. Even the top-notch senior masters would not be able to kill her, as she would always have a chance to escape. Lung Jinghua pondered and said, "This isn't a good time. Father must be furious now. Guyu hasn't accomplished anything since he took office. He should have died long ago." Lu Yurong shook her head. "As for the Emperor's anger, it's useless. He won't go against the Holy Church of Light." Lung Jinghua frowned. "I'll try." He rose and hurried away. Lu Yurong paced around thoughtfully. Why did the Holy Church of Light want to assassinate Guyu? As the Holy Church of Light, they should be eager for someone like Guyu to remain as the Secret Guardians Hall's commander. The more useless Guyu was, the more advantageous it would be for the Holy Church of Light. Why do they have to assassinate Guyu? She frowned and remained silent, feeling that something was not quite right. After a while, she had a flash of inspiration and a smile appeared on her face. A disciple of the Holy Church of Light might not be assassinated by the Holy Church of Light. If someone else were to imitate a disciple of the Holy Church of Light, who would know if it was real or fake? In any case, the murderer had not been caught. She suddenly remembered a piece of news. Guyu said that he had found evidence of Chu Li colluding with the Holy Church of Light and had sent someone to invite Chu Li back to confront him. The Holy Church of Light. Chu Li. A smile suddenly appeared on her face. Then, she glided away. Chu Li was cultivating on Jade Guardian Island. He was diligently cultivating the great heaven-deriving sword and Philip Swift Thunder. Both martial arts were very important to him. He suddenly raised his eyebrows and disappeared from Jade Guardian Island in a flash. Skyen was very lively. The first floor was the busiest, the second floor had cubicles, and the third floor was a single room. Lu Yurong was wearing a white gown and a white veil. She sat in a single room on the third floor of Sky, in by the window. There was no one else beside her, and she was eating elegantly. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the room and sat opposite her. Lu Yurong took off her white veil and revealed her charming face. She looked at him with a faint smile. Chu Li said, "Welcome, what brings you here?" "Chu Li, you killed Guyu, didn't you?" Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li could not help but laugh. "I wanted to do that. Wasn't I waiting for you to kick him out of the Secret Guardians Hall?" Guyu is dead? You're playing dumb." Lu Yurong stared at him. Her watery eyes penetrated every pore as if she was trying to drill into his heart. Chu Li said snappily, "I'm happy. How did he die?" "I heard that he was assassinated by a disciple of the Holy Church of Light." Lu Yurong smiled. "I'm curious. Why would a disciple of the Holy Church of Light want to kill him? He's such a muddle-headed guy. They would love for him to be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall." Chu Li said, "Although Guyu is muddle-headed, he's been especially hard on the Holy Church of Light ever since he took the position. It's understandable that he wants to kill Guyu." I think there's a problem." Lu Yurong shook her head. The one who wants to kill Guyu the most isn't the Holy Church of Light. It's you, Chu Li. Chu Li said, I want to kill him, but I'm not in a hurry. I believe you have a way to get him away. When he's no longer a commander, it won't be so troublesome to kill him then. I'll just get rid of him silently. What if something forces you to do it? Lu Yurong smiled. I heard that Guyu has evidence of you colluding with the Holy Church of Light. Chu Li laughed. What did you hear? Such a ridiculous rumor. It's true, Lu Yurong said. In short, there's a high chance that Guyu died in your hands. Chu Li sighed. If the Emperor hears this, he'll definitely kill me. It's good that you know. Lu Yurong smiled. She was pleased when she saw Chu Li's expression. Chu Li shook his head. You think it's me, but I think it's you. Me? Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. Tell me, why do I want to kill him? First, for the position of commander. Chu Li said, I know you've been eyeing the position of commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. He's an eyesore there, so you can't wait and want to get rid of him as soon as possible. Second, Chu Li smiled and waved his hand to stop her from talking. He continued, it's also our agreement. I won't go so far as to kill him just because of the agreement. Lu Yurong scoffed. There are many ways to get rid of him, but killing him is the stupidest way. Chu Li said, sometimes the stupidest way is the most unexpected, especially for someone as smart as you. You're putting the blame on me. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. This is my honest opinion. I'm sure many people will think the same, such as His Highness the Crown Prince or the Emperor. Lu Yurong's expression changed. Chu Li said, will His Highness the Crown Prince mention to the Emperor that you'll be the commander? The Emperor is a suspicious person. Will he suspect that you're the culprit? Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li smiled. Looks like His Highness the Crown Prince has already mentioned it to the Emperor. I'm afraid you won't be the commander anymore. Are you happy? Lu Yurong scoffed. What good will it do to you if I don't become a commander? Chu Li smiled. There's nothing good about that, but if you become the commander, we can work together. Chapter 1204. Will the Emperor be so heartless? Shao Qi frowned. Although she was born in the public house, she knew that the most ruthless imperial family was the Emperor's. The Emperor's mind was usually cold, and he prioritized his own interests over everything else. He regarded human lives as nothing. However, Fu Mengshan was not an ordinary courtier. He was the Emperor's confidant, and he was loyal to the Emperor. Killing him just like that was unacceptable. Who would still be loyal to the Emperor? Chu Li said, accompanying the Emperor is like accompanying a tiger. The Emperor has always been like this. There's no difference. Shao Qi sighed. The public house could only be loyal to the Emperor. This was the ancestral teaching and could not be changed. However, such a cold-blooded and heartless Emperor did not deserve loyalty. Chu Li said, I'm afraid that the fact that I'm hiding in the Holy Church of Light will be leaked as well. You want to kill Guyu? It's too risky. Shao Qi shook her head. Guyu isn't that easy to kill, and the consequences are too severe. She knew that Chu Li would definitely kill Guyu. She could guess that Guyu must have been protected by a top-notch master who was not inferior to Chu Li. Otherwise, he would have been assassinated a long time ago. There were many top-notch masters in the imperial house who almost never appeared in front of the public. They came from the inner mausoleum. If such a master protected Guyu, it would be troublesome if the assassination failed. Chu Li said, he'll definitely use this as a threat, and he'll definitely spread the news. It's better to strike first. There's no other way. Xiao Qi looked at him and sighed helplessly. She did not say anything more. Chu Li smiled. If we really can't do it, there's still the Spirit Crane's Peak. We can just hide there. All right. Shao Qi smiled. She would not object to Chu Li's decision, but it was indeed dangerous. However, which of his matters was not dangerous? He had always managed to turn misfortune into fortune. If worse came to worst, he still had God's limbs and Spirit Crane's Peak. Chu Li suddenly disappeared. Guyu had been reading dossiers in the main hall of the Secret Guardians Hall for the entire morning. The more he read, the more he felt a headache. Thus, he put down the dossiers and slowly walked out of the Secret Guardians Hall. He left the main street and walked to a side street. He wanted to reward himself for his hard work, so he went into a small restaurant, sat in front of a table, and sighed. He realized that he was not suited to be a commander. It was too boring. In the eyes of others, it was exciting to have a high position and power, but in fact, he rarely experienced the thrill of power. Instead, he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. He felt that every secret guardian in the residence was secretly laughing at him. A new broom sweeps clean. Chu Li had ruthlessly extinguished his prestige and caused him to be disgraced. Moreover, the mayor courtyard had been openly complying with him, but secretly opposing him. This had caused his prestige to plummet even further. His ability to control the secret guardian's hall had rapidly declined. Without Chen Donghai's help, he would not have been able to command the secret guardians at all. Just thinking about how he was not as good as Chen Donghai, who had been crippled of his martial arts, infuriated him. However, this kind of time was gone forever. He had Chu Li's lifeblood in his hands. He had never thought that when he was helping the emperor to get rid of Fu Mengshan, he would unintentionally gain something. Fu Mengshan actually said something shocking before he died, that Chu Li had already infiltrated the Holy Church of Light. This was a great merit, but he didn't report it to the emperor. If he reported it himself, then it would be his merit. However, as soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he immediately extinguished it. If it was someone else, he would have directly reported it to the emperor and received this merit before anything else. However, Chu Li was different. He felt that this was a chance to overthrow Chu Li. As long as he told Chu Li would have to listen to him obediently. When that time came, he could do whatever he wanted to do with him. Thinking of this, he became excited. He felt that the sun was exceptionally bright and the weather today was exceptionally refreshing. His body felt light. The small restaurant that he frequented looked very ordinary, but they cooked good fish, which suited his taste. He had been here several times, and every time, he ate to his heart's content. More importantly, the lady boss here was a charming lady. Every time he ate, he would admire her lithe figure, and his appetite would be particularly good. As he thought about it, he had already found out about the origins of this restaurant. The male owner of the restaurant was a good cook. His ancestor was a chef from the imperial house. Although it had been 4 generations, the skill of cooking fish was still passed down. After going through 4 generations, the family's connections had all dissipated, so they could only stay in such a quiet place and open a small restaurant. As the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall, it was a piece of cake for him to take care of this family. However, he enjoyed the current stage the most. He wanted to succeed, but he did not. Once he succeeded, it would be boring. 2 gray-robed elders sat not far from his seat. They seemed to have nothing to do with him. He was staring at the young lady who was serving the dishes and greeted her with a smile. The lady boss looked at him with a faint smile. At this time, an elder in green slowly walked into the restaurant and sat at the table next to Guyu. He waved his hand to ask the lady boss to come over. Then, he casually ordered 2 dishes and looked at Guyu. Guyu glanced at him and then looked away. He was just an ordinary old man who did not know martial arts. He could not be bothered with him. The 2 gray-robed elders behind, Guyu stared at the elder in green for a while. Finally, they slowly turned their heads to admire the lady boss's enchanting figure. It was indeed a great enjoyment. Bang! Suddenly, there was a muffled sound. The elder in green had punched Guyu's back. Guyu flew into the air. The elder in green appeared behind him in a flash and punched the back of his head again. This time, his brain was smashed. Even with a spirit medicine like the spirit blessing pill, he would still be an idiot and would not wake up. No! The 2 gray-robed elders roared and rushed over. The elder in green sent Guyu flying with another punch. Then, he jumped out of the window and disappeared in the blink of an eye. One of the gray-robed elders went to catch Guyu while the other chased after him. By the time he chased out of the restaurant, he had already lost sight of the green-robed old man. He hurriedly leaped onto the roof and looked down. The streets were bustling with people and carriages, so he couldn't see the green-robed old man's figure at all. The gray-robed elder howled at the sky. He took something out and threw it into the air. Bang! An explosion was heard in the sky. Then a ball of flame condensed in the sky. When this signal was heard, the city gates would be closed. The commander of the secret guardian's hall was an important official. How could he be assassinated so easily? As long as the city gates were closed, he would be found after a slow search. The elder in green suddenly disappeared from the city and appeared on the High Duke's public house's Jade Guardian Island. Chu Li's real face had been restored. Xiao Qi was sitting in the garden reading. When she saw him, she looked at him thoughtfully. Chu Li smiled. It's a success. That easy? He thought no one would dare to assassinate him. Chu Li shook his head. He only brought 2 protectors. Although they're top-notch masters, they weren't that vigilant. No one could recognize you, right? I used the divine light fist. Chu Li smiled. Chapter 1205. Chu Li smiled and said, Moreover, I can also lend you a hand and help you sit in that position. Lu Yurong frowned at him. How are you going to help me? What if I recommend myself to be the commander now? What do you think? Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong replied, How can the emperor agree? Chu Li replied, I'm actually very suitable. Everything else aside, just my ability to solve cases is enough for me to be the commander, right? If I take over the secret guardian's hall, no place in the fairies' capital can escape from the secret guardian's hall's control. That's true. Lu Yurong nodded. Lu Yurong knew that she was good at planning and strategizing. However, Chu Li was not only good at planning and strategizing, but he was also very perceptive. No case could escape his detection. If he really took over the secret guardian's hall, the secret guardian's hall would have astonishing development. You're biased towards King Ping. Lu Yurong shook her head. The emperor won't agree. Then I can use the power of the imperial court. Chu Li smiled. I'm sure many courtiers want me to take the commander's position. Chu Li had always been a straightforward person, especially when he went against the emperor and was banished to the imperial mausoleum, which made people gasp in admiration and caused his reputation to soar. If he were to take over the secret guardian's hall, the courtiers would no longer have to worry about being wrongly accused. Lu Yurong remained silent. Chu Li smiled. What do you think? Lu Yurong scoffed. No matter how loud the courtiers are, it depends on whether the emperor listens to them. You have no hope of taking that position. Chu Li replied, That's not necessarily true. Heroes are created by circumstances. All right, if I become the commander, we can work together. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li smiled in satisfaction. If you become the commander, you can't betray my people. You can't hide the news from each other. You're greedy. Lu Yurong scoffed. How is that possible? Chu Li replied, Mayor Courtyard will listen to you. Lu Yurong frowned. If I'm the commander, they should listen to me. Chu Li smiled without saying a word. Lu Yurong scoffed. All right, what else? Chu Li replied, Nothing else, I just got some news. But let's make this clear. If you purposely hide anything from me, our collaboration will be over. No problem. Lu Yurong nodded. I won't go so far as to do such a thing. That's good. Just wait for the commander's throne, Chu Li said with a smile. Lu Yurong pursed her lips and chuckled. You talk big. Don't be happy for nothing in the end. You'll have to compensate me. Don't worry, Chu Li said. Lu Yurong tilted her head and said, I'm even more certain now that you killed him. Chu Li replied, You're imagining things. By the way, how's the investigation on Zhu Liang going? Lu Yurong stopped smiling and said seriously, He's not famous, so it's hard to find him. However, I found some clues. It seems that he's hiding in Zheng Dynasty. Which part of the Zheng Dynasty? Chu Li quickly asked. Lu Yurong thought for a moment. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but it seems to be at Ascending Dragon Mountain. Chu Li raised his eyebrows as he was secretly surprised. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Heavenly King Palm was hidden in the Ascending Dragon Mountain, and Zhu Liang was also hiding in the Ascending Dragon Mountain. If that was really the case, it was very likely that this Ascending Dragon Mountain had some profound secrets that he did not understand. It seemed that he would have to make another trip to Ascending Dragon Mountain. Why are you asking about Zhu Liang? Lu Yurong was puzzled. He's a person from more than 1,000 years ago. Although he's an enlightened master, he should have ascended to the Grand Master's boundary long ago. What connection do you have with him? Chu Li said, I found out that Zhu Liang was a disciple of Green Deer Cliff, but he later betrayed the sect. Hmm? Lu Yurong was shocked. She really did not know about this. She spent a lot of effort to look through the books in the Crown Prince's residence. She even used the Crown Prince's connections to enter the Imperial Library. After searching for a long time, she finally found information about Zhu Liang. It was found in an anecdote. However, there was no record of him being a traitor of Green Deer Cliff. It seemed that very few people knew about his identity back then. It made sense when she thought about it. Green Deer Cliff would not make it public, and Zhu Liang would not make it public either. Hence, it was difficult for others to know about it. The disciples of Green Deer Cliff had always been secretive. How did you know? Lu Yurong asked. Fa Yuan helped me. Chuli smiled. Lu Yurong said, why did you go through so much trouble to find out about this person? To obtain the martial arts of Green Deer Cliff? I'm a little interested. Chuli replied. Lu Yurong shook her head. I advise you to give up. It's impossible for him to keep the martial arts of Green Deer Cliff. Even if he did, it would have decayed long ago. It's been more than 1,000 years. Chuli smiled. I'm just curious. All right, we'll go our separate ways then. He got up and fist saluted before turning to leave. Lu Yurong scoffed. What's the hurry? Aren't you going to eat first? Chuli said, I'll go back and eat. Xiao Qi is really good at taming her husband. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Chuli glared at her before turning to leave. When Lu Yurong returned to the Crown Prince's residence, it was already the next morning. She went straight to the backyard to cultivate. When Leng Jinghua slowly walked into the backyard, Lu Yurong knew that things were not going well. Yurong, I'm afraid things won't go as you wish. Leng Jinghua was dressed in a luxurious robe. He sighed and sat in the gazebo. He shook his head at Lu Yurong, who was holding a sword. Father is quite angry. He's a little suspicious of you. Lu Yurong said, no matter how suspicious he is, it shouldn't be me. If it wasn't for that, I'm afraid Father would have already chosen you. Leng Jinghua shook his head. Fortunately, you're from the High Duke's public house. No matter how much trouble the High Duke's public house caused, their loyalty was guaranteed. Therefore, no matter how angry the emperor was, he would not want to kill them. He would only ignore them and give them the cold shoulder. Lu Yurong asked, then who's going to be the commander? Father is still hesitating. Leng Jinghua said. Lu Yurong nodded thoughtfully. Leng Jinghua said, Yurong, let's forget about it this time. Maybe next time, there'll be a chance. If it doesn't work out, I'll promise you after 10 years. Once I'm crowned, I'll make you the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. Thank you, uncle-in-law. Lu Yurong smiled. But after you're crowned, I won't be the commander anymore. Leng Jinghua understood what she meant. She wanted to be the commander because she was worried that King Ping and the others would overthrow him. Based on her personality, once she was crowned, she would retire and return to the High Duke's public house. Lu Yurong asked, did you find the murderer? Where can we find him? Leng Jinghua shook his head. The Holy Church of Light is the most troublesome. If he hides in the crowd, it's impossible to find him. Lu Yurong pondered. Don't the two protectors recognize him? With just the two of them, even if they watch him all day long, how many people can they see? Leng Jinghua sighed. The most important thing is to be on guard. This is too demoralizing, Lu Yurong said. If anyone else dares to be the commander, the Holy Church of Light will probably try to assassinate them. There'll be people fighting for it. Leng Jinghua shook his head. Lu Yurong smiled. The position was indeed very tempting. It was the emperor's confidant. Once they took the position, they only needed to answer to the emperor. There would be no one above them, and they would only be under one person. It was really impressive. While the two were talking, they suddenly heard hurried footsteps. Chapter 1206. Leng Jinghua and Lu Yurong stood up at the same time. What? Leng Jinghua screamed. The green-robed scribe whispered. It's news from the imperial house. Impossible. Leng Jinghua slammed the stone table and yelled, It can't be him. Lu Yurong calmed down and asked, Are you sure it's him? Not yet. The green-robed guard said in a low voice. The emperor is hesitating. He has this thought. I understand. You may leave. Lu Yurong waved her hand. The green-robed guard quietly retreated out of the pavilion, left the back garden, and disappeared. Lu Yurong looked at the furious Lung Jinghua and said gently, "Uncle-in-law, don't panic. The emperor hasn't made up his mind yet." "What does father mean?" Lung Jinghua took a deep breath and sat down slowly. "Everyone knows that Chu Li is loyal to King Ping, but father wants to make him the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. What is he trying to do?" Lu Yurong frowned and was puzzled. Logically, the emperor would not use the art of balance on the crown prince because it was unnecessary. As an enlightened master, he was not afraid that the crown prince would make him a mere figurehead. Besides, it was only for 10 years. Chu Li offended the emperor because he wanted to defend King Ping. He was sent to the imperial mausoleum and almost never made it back. Everyone knew that Chu Li was on King Ping's side. If he became the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall, it would not benefit the crown prince at all. The news from the palace would not be fake. They would not spread the news if they were not confident. She pondered for a while and looked up. "Uncle-in-law, the emperor might be testing Chu Li. Why would he?" Lung Jinghua frowned. "Father doesn't need to test him," Lu Yurong said. "Who knows what the emperor is thinking? But no matter what, he won't let Chu Li take over the Secret Guardians Hall." Now that she had sobered up, she suppressed her worries. Chu Li was not the emperor's confidant. Even if the emperor was an enlightened master and fearless, he would not let Chu Li take over the Secret Guardians Hall. It was equivalent to the Secret Guardians Hall losing their eyes and ears. Lung Jinghua sighed. "The last time I was banished to the Imperial Mausoleum, it was actually father who punished me too harshly, and I've let fourth brother down as well. This time, he might be making it up to me. No, I have to go to the palace to see father." Lu Yurong shook her head and smiled. "If uncle-in-law enters the palace, I'm afraid I really have no hope. Are we just going to watch it happen?" Lung Jinghua was unwilling to give up. Lu Yurong nodded. "I'm afraid the emperor also wants to see Chu Li's background." "I'd love to see it too." Lung Jinghua scoffed. By noon, the news that Chu Li was going to take over the Secret Guardians Hall had spread, and everyone knew about it. After that, everyone knew the specifics of the situation. It was said that Princess and personally went to the palace to meet the emperor and explain the benefits of Chu Li taking over the Secret Guardians Hall. He was brimming with talent and was fair in his conduct. Everyone respected him, and the Secret Guardians Hall would change from the gloomy atmosphere of the past to become dignified and imposing, forming an effective deterrent. After the emperor heard it, he felt that it was reasonable and said that he needed to consider it and could be used as a backup. After that, he would consider other candidates and make another decision. However, everyone felt that Chu Li was the most confident in getting the position of commander among all the candidates. Firstly, he was already a centurion of the Secret Guardians Hall, so he was familiar with the process. Secondly, he was so talented that no one could compare to him. The others had not been tested, so they could not be sure if they were more suitable than him. Therefore, everyone confidently said that Chu Li would definitely become the new commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. Chu Li was not in Fairy's capital, but he hurried back from Yi Public House the next morning and went straight to the palace to meet the emperor. Imperial House, Chongwen Hall. The morning air was exceptionally cold. It was already winter, so Chongwen Hall was extremely spacious but warm. Once one stepped in, one would be enveloped by the hot air, and one would want to take off all their clothes. The emperor, Lung Wufeng, was sitting behind the dragon table. He was dressed in a bright yellow robe and was carefully sizing Chu Li up. He was thin and short and looked like an ordinary rich man. There was not a trace of sharpness in him, and he did not look like a master. Only Chu Li had experienced how terrifying he looked when he transformed into an enlightened master. Chu Li entered with a cold air and fist saluted. "Greetings, Your Majesty. You came back in such a hurry. Did you hear the news?" Lung Wufeng put down the memorial and asked lazily. Chu Li replied, "Yes. How is it?" "Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I can't be the commander." Chu Li shook his head. "Oh," Lung Wufeng scoffed. "Princess and praised you to the skies." Chu Li said, "Princess and meant well." She felt that King Anne's imperial residence has lost its support and needs a sufficient official position to support it, so that it won't be bullied. I understand, Lung Wufeng said. That's why I didn't say much. Although she doesn't know martial arts, she's very knowledgeable. What she said makes sense, so I have nothing to say. He was very satisfied with this daughter-in-law of his. She was far-sighted, intelligent, powerful, and righteous. Other princesses could not be compared to her. Not only was she loved by the empress, but he liked her too. It was a pity that King Anne was unlucky and died young, or he would have been a good wife. After she entered the palace and met him, she analyzed one by one, taking care of public and private affairs, leaving him speechless. He could not refute or deny it, so he could only delay it. He also wanted to take the opportunity to see what Chu Li and King Ping were thinking. Chu Li said, "Even if there are many reasons, I still can't take over the secret Guardian's Hall. It's good that you understand." Lung Wufeng nodded. He was quite satisfied that Chu Li knew when to advance and when to retreat. Chu Li said, "In the eyes of the emperor and the courtiers, I'm King Ping's man. If I take over the secret Guardian's Hall, His Highness the Crown Prince will lose face. Everyone will also wonder about the emperor's attitude toward His Highness the Crown Prince." Lung Wufeng nodded slowly. Chu Li said, "If that's the case, I'd like to recommend someone." "Who?" Lung Wufeng asked. "Lu Yurong," Chu Li said, "the young lady of the Ren public house. She's loyal and capable. She's not inferior to men. I've been her rival, and we've fought countless times without a clear winner. It's rare that you think of her." Lung Wufeng shook his head. "But she's a woman after all. She's more powerful than men." Chu Li chuckled. "If everyone thinks this way and underestimates her, Lu Yurong will soon make them realize how wrong they are. If she takes over the secret Guardian's Hall, won't the Li dynasty laugh at us for having no one?" Lung Wufeng said. Chu Li said, "The Li dynasty's Holy Church of Lights saint is more powerful, and she's also a woman. Let them fight and see who's better." "Haha, interesting." Lung Wufeng laughed out loud. He suddenly felt that Chu Li's recommendation was not out of good intentions. Women understood women the best, and no matter how powerful a man was, he would not be able to guess what a woman would do. In that case, if he wanted to go against the Holy Church of Light, he would need an extremely intelligent woman. Chu Li said, "Moreover, His Highness the Crown Prince trusts her the most. Other than her, His Highness the Crown Prince will inevitably overthink." Lung Wufeng scoffed. Chu Li smiled. "As for me, I'm just a peasant in a remote village, and I can't stand being restrained." All right, let Lu Yurong do it." Lung Wufeng grinned. "She owes you a favor." Chu Li said, "I have a personal grudge against her, so I'm recommending her purely out of the public interest. It's rare for you to be so considerate." Lung Wufeng nodded slowly. Chapter 1207. P.S. The 41st Alliance is born, and its leader is a carefree individual. Chu Li fist saluted. "I'll take my leave then." He turned around and left. "Chu Li, you killed Guyu, right?" Lung Wufeng suddenly asked. Chu Li stopped in his tracks and turned around to look. "You did, didn't you?" Lung Wufeng said. "I won't pursue this matter. Guyu was reckless and incompetent. I'm very disappointed." Chu Li felt a chill down his spine. He sighed and shook his head. "Your Majesty, you're overthinking. I don't have a deep grudge against Commander Gu. It's just a small matter. I won't kill him even if I'm angry. I'll just beat him up to vent my anger. He can't do anything to me anyway." "According to him, he has evidence that you're colluding with the Holy Church of Light," Guyu said. Chu Li was stunned. He did not expect Guyu to tell the emperor about this. He laughed. "Commander Gu might be able to believe that I'm colluding with other forces, but it's ridiculous to say that I'm colluding with the Holy Church of Light. The Holy Church of Light and I are like fire and water. They won't allow me to collude with them. They'll kill me no matter what." "Guyu won't lie to me." Lung Wufeng shook his head. He must have found evidence. "Chu Li, are you sure you're not colluding with the Holy Church of Light?" Chu Li raised his finger and swore to the heavens. Oaths were extremely restrictive because of the existence of Outland. Once an oath was taken, it would correspond to heaven and earth, making it particularly effective. Chuli was not afraid of oaths. He was not colluding with the Holy Church of Light. He only snuck into the Holy Church to deal with them. The two were completely different. Lung Wufeng nodded in satisfaction and smiled. How do you think the Holy Church of Light should be dealt with? Chuli shook his head. Even the Emperor can't deal with it. How can I? All right, you may leave. Lung Wufeng waved his hand. Chuli Fist saluted and strode away. Early in the morning, the bright sun shone on the backyard of the Crown Prince's residence. Lu Yurong was quietly reading in the gazebo, while a beautiful young lady was playing the guzheng. The sound of the guzheng soothed Lu Yurong's worries as she focused on her reading. Hurried footsteps were heard as Lung Jinghua strode toward them. He was beaming with joy, and there was a gust of wind beneath his feet. Yurong, congratulations. He laughed heartily as he entered the pagoda. The beautiful girl's music came to an abrupt end, and she tactfully excused herself. Lung Jinghua sat opposite Lu Yurong and laughed. It's done. Yurong, you'll soon be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. So fast. Lu Yurong was surprised. She originally thought that the Emperor would take the opportunity to observe the actions of the courtiers and then look at Chu Li's actions. She did not expect that the Emperor would immediately make a decision and skip many steps in the middle, which surprised her. Lung Jinghua chuckled. Speaking of which, I have to thank Chu Li. He went to the palace to meet the Emperor just now and rejected the position of commander to recommend you instead. Lu Yurong snorted. Even if Chu Li had not rejected him, he would not have been able to become the commander. Since Chu Li had conveniently recommended him, Chu Li really had to thank him. Otherwise, the longer the delay, the more trouble there would be. Who knew what other problems might occur, and who knew if someone else would intervene? Lung Jinghua sighed. This guy is really unexpected. Why would he recommend you, Yurong? He's up to no good. Lu Yurong scoffed. He must have thought that the Emperor despises him, and that the person he recommended would not be approved by the Emperor. He didn't expect the Emperor to agree to it. That makes sense. Lung Jinghua clapped his hands and laughed. He shot himself in the foot this time. Great, haha. He looked up to the sky and laughed. He was overjoyed. He had always held a grudge against Chu Li and never succeeded in finding trouble with him. Now that he finally saw Chu Li being humiliated, he felt an indescribable joy. Lu Yurong smiled. But uncle-in-law, I'm not confident that I can take this position out of the blue. You can handle it. Lung Jinghua was confident in her. He smiled. Just do whatever you want. Also, don't let Chu Li go. We can't deal with him now. Lu Yurong sighed. After all, he recommended me. We can't let others say that we're biting the hand that feeds us. That's fine. Lung Jinghua said. Start preparing now. If there's a chance in the future, we'll get rid of him and kick him out of the fairy's capital. That way, he won't be able to stir up trouble. Yes. Lu Yurong smiled. Don't worry, uncle-in-law. I want to kick him out even more. He's a thorn in my side. That's true. Lung Jinghua understood what she was thinking. She had always been resourceful, and no one could compare to her. She had always been invincible and had never been defeated. However, after meeting Chu Li, she was always at a disadvantage and had suffered many losses. She was definitely not convinced and wanted nothing more than to get back at him. He stood up and said, Go and thank her so that she won't pick on you. Yes. Lu Yurong nodded. Chu Li sat in the Tianshu courtyard while Xiao Shi sat opposite him. She stared at him without blinking. Her eyes were as deep as an ancient pond. It was as if her soul was being sucked into it. Chu Li said helplessly, My lady, I really can't be the commander. The Emperor used me to test everyone. I don't want to be used like this. That's why I recommended Lu Yurong. Why did you have to recommend Lu Yurong? Xiao Shi scoffed. Is there really something going on between the two of you? Chu Li looked helpless. Xiao Shi scoffed. What's in it for you to help Lu Yurong get this position? Before Chu Li invited her to the palace, he had already told her about his plan. However, when she saw the result that Chu Li had predicted, she was a little unhappy. The commander of the Secret Guardians Hall was so close to him. He was so close to becoming the commander, but he just had to give it up so casually. Chu Li smiled. There's nothing special in it. It's just a message. My lady, don't worry. This matter is finally over. As long as she succeeds as the commander, everything will return to normal. Seosher said, I hope she won't provoke us. I won't. Chuli shook his head. Seo sure pouted. I've seen too many people who burn bridges after crossing the river. Lu Yurong isn't a kind person. She'll definitely think of ways to weaken you. You have to be careful. Don't fall into her hands. Chuli nodded. I'll be careful. I need to go out for a while. You're the busiest. Seosher scoffed and waved her hand. Chuli stood up and returned to his courtyard. He suddenly disappeared and reappeared in his house in Gale City. He had already transformed into Zhao Dai and was sitting on his bed with his legs crossed. He had sensed that the jade pendant had been crushed, so he rushed back. Ko Chiong was standing outside. He was crushing the jade pendant and staring at the crushed pieces on the floor. Chuli said, What's the matter? Come in. Ko Chiong quickly pushed the door open and gave a fist salute. Branch leader, what happened? Chuli asked. Ko Chiong said, Branch leader, we've received news that a patrol has been assassinated in the Ji dynasty. Assassinated? Chuli was stunned. Patrols from the Holy Church of Light were difficult to kill. They all had a unique escape skill, especially the Ji dynasty. Their overall strength was on the weaker side. It was surprising that they could kill a patrol. Ko Chiong said, Yes, he's been assassinated. The news has spread throughout the Great Light Peak. I heard that the saint plans to promote you to a patrol and avenge the previous patrol in the Ji dynasty. Chapter 1208. Ko Chiong widened his eyes and looked at Chuli eagerly. Chuli glared at him. Why? You want me to be a patrol? It's such a good opportunity to be promoted. Don't you want to go? Ko Chiong was surprised. Chuli shook his head. It's unjustifiable. I won't go. Young master, this is a rare opportunity. Ko Chiong hurriedly said, If you miss this opportunity, I don't know when you will get another one. The war with the Chiu dynasty is coming to an end, so it'll be very difficult for me to get promoted again. There will be, Chuli said faintly. Besides, I don't need to be promoted. I'm fine here. Young master, with your martial arts and talents, it's a waste of your talents to stay in Gale City. What do you mean by that? I like being free and unfettered here. Young master is not someone who is willing to be under others. Young? Gather? Sifei blackmails the emperor and seizes Seng, Jun, Ko, Chiong shook his head and chuckled. Gale branch is the most powerful branch now, so no one dares to mess around. By the way, Miss Ru has returned. Chuli nodded. Looks like he's out of isolated cultivation. All right, you may continue with your work. Ko Chiong cupped his fists and left. Chuli sat on the bed and began to cultivate Philip's swift thunder. As the number of times he cultivated and the time he spent cultivating Philip's swift thunder became faster and faster. Unlike other martial arts, which became slower and slower as he progressed, Philip's swift thunder became faster and faster, like a rolling snowball. The beginning of finger-flicking swift thunder was difficult, and it was a great challenge for everyone. It exceeded their limits, and it was too complicated, and it consumed a lot of their spirit. It was more painful to exhaust one's spirit than one's body. The former was like the feeling of waking up with a hangover, painful and unbearable, while the latter was equivalent to heavy physical labor. Although it was painful, there was a hidden sense of comfort. They were two completely different feelings, so very few people could endure the mental pain and would rather let their bodies be exhausted. His mental strength was strong, so he could activate his circulatory cycle faster than others. Even so, after more than 100 circulatory cycles, when he opened his eyes, it was already early evening. The house was dark, but the courtyard was as bright as day. He stood up and walked out of the room. A maid served him dinner and stood by his side. The sound of footsteps could be heard again. Ko Chiong rushed in, his face full of anger. Chuli looked up at him. What happened this time? As the deputy branch master, you must be steady. Young master, we've received news from the Great Light Peak again, Ko Chiong said. Someone has beaten us to it and snatched the patrol's position. Chuli raised his eyebrows. Which one? Deng Da Tong. Ko Chiong said hatefully, I didn't expect this bastard to be so shameless, taking advantage of the situation. Chuli put down his chopsticks and pointed to the opposite side. Sit down and we'll talk. Coach Young sat at the other end of the stone table and sighed. I heard that this Deng Datong has already made a military pledge to avenge the previous patrol within 10 days. Otherwise, he will not be the patrol anymore. Chuli frowned. Since he dared to say such big words, he definitely had something up his sleeves. Moreover, he was 120% confident. Otherwise, he would not have acted like this. None of the disciples of the Holy Church of Light were fools. On the contrary, they were all extraordinarily intelligent. Since Deng Datong had spoken like this, he must have found the murderer and was confident that he could kill him. Forget it then. Chuli nodded. Young master, this is too infuriating. Coach Young said, this isn't fair. Chuli could not help but laugh. How do you know it's not fair? As far as I know, the saint is very fair. Based on your contributions, young master, you should have been promoted to patrol long ago. You've been suppressing him all this time, and you've given such a good opportunity to someone else. Coach Young scoffed. Deng Datong was just lucky to have contributed a little in the war against the Qiu dynasty. Compared to young master, your contributions are nothing. Chuli smiled and waved his hand. All right, since this matter has been decided, let's not bother about him. Young master, if you don't say anything this time, I'm afraid this will happen again next time. Kind people will be bullied. Coach Young said, young master, you should talk to the saint about it. She can't bully people like this. Stop. Pooey. Back. Bun to relieve boredom. Oysters, broken bones, and ribbons. Pooey. Bad dreams are easy to masturbate. Coach Young immediately became discouraged. Chuli scoffed. Don't talk about this anymore. I'll be staying here for a few days, and I'll be going into isolated cultivation soon. All right, find out who killed the patrol. Yes, Coach Young said dejectedly. Chuli waved his hand and gestured for him to leave. Coach Young had no choice but to leave. Chuli pondered and looked up at the sky, then at the direction of the Great Light Peak. He sighed in relief. He had been worried about this when he first infiltrated the Holy Church of Light. If he were to attack the Ji dynasty, even people who did not know him would feel uncomfortable. This opportunity might seem important to others, but he avoided it as if he was avoiding a snake or a scorpion. Now, it seemed that he should not be promoted anymore. Otherwise, if he became a patrol, or even an altar leader or a priest, he would have to deal with the Ji dynasty. The Ji dynasty was the Li dynasty's biggest enemy. After dinner, Chuli was not in a hurry to leave. He walked around Gale City to let others see him. When he passed by the Phoenix Goddess brothel, he did not go in to meet Miss Uru. The next morning, he returned to his bedroom from the public house. Coach Young was already waiting outside. He stood motionless in the middle of the courtyard as if he was meditating. Chuli asked, "What's the matter?" Coach Young answered, "Young master, someone from the Great Light Peak is here." "Let her in," Chuli said lazily. "Yes," Coach Young responded and quickly brought a young lady in green. Chuli left the bedroom and went down the stairs. He fist saluted and smiled. "Senior sister Du, junior brother Zhao." The young lady in green had a graceful figure and a beautiful face. She fist saluted and smiled. "I'm summoned by the saint." "All right, let's go now," Chuli said. The two of them used their light body technique and flew out of Gale City. The young lady in green pushed her light body technique to its limit. She floated like a gust of wind, but her speed was as fast as lightning. She was twice as fast as a galloping horse and had a longer endurance. Chuli followed her leisurely and asked casually, "Senior Sister Du, I heard that another patrol has been appointed?" "Yes." The young lady in green nodded. She was secretly surprised. Zhao De lived up to his reputation. He had cultivated for a short period of time, but his cultivation level was far higher than hers. Chuli asked, "Senior Brother Deng has left the mountain after he became the patrol, right?" "Senior Brother Deng is waiting for you, Junior Brother Zhao." The young lady in green shook her head. Chuli was stunned. "Waiting for me? I don't think I know Senior Brother Deng. We're not friends." "That's strange." The young lady in green smiled. "Senior Brother Deng seems to value you a lot. He specifically asked the saint for your help. Chu Li frowned. What help does he need? To avenge Senior Brother Chong. The young lady in green said, Senior Brother Deng has issued a military order to avenge Senior Brother Chong within 10 days. However, he has a condition. He wants you to be his assistant, Junior Brother Zhao. Chu Li asked, did the saint agree? Yes. The young lady in green nodded. Chu Li's face darkened. The young lady in green noticed his expression and quickly said, this is an opportunity to make a contribution. Senior Brother Deng has good intentions. Chu Li shook his head with a gloomy face. The young lady in green asked, why? Are you unwilling, Junior Brother Zhao? Chu Li scoffed. If I'm going to avenge Senior Brother Chong, why should I be Senior Brother Deng's assistant? I could do it myself. Chapter 1209. It was ironic that he was asked to kill Li Hanyan. The girl in green said, the culprit this time is said to be extremely powerful. She's known as the Ruthless Fairy. I'm afraid he won't be able to handle her by himself. You two have to work together to have a chance. Senior Brother Deng, you're so calculative. Chu Li scoffed. The girl in green smiled and nodded. As an outsider, she also felt that Senior Brother Deng was too calculative. It was clearly the work of two people, but only one of them took it. He wanted Chu Li to help him ascend to the position of patrol. It would be fine if it was someone else, but Chu Li's position as a branch leader was a waste of his talents. With his merits, if he did not cause trouble, he would have become an altar leader. This was a good opportunity for him to become a patrol. This time, the patrol was snatched away by force. Not only did she snatch his opportunity, but she still wanted him to help her. What a coward. Then, the two stopped talking and hurried on with their journey. In the evening, the two arrived at the Great Light Peak. The girl in green was faster than Li Ruolin due to her light body technique. Chu Li followed her to the Divine Light Basilica. The basilica was quiet and cold. Sun Mingyue was the only one sitting behind the table reading the dossiers. Chu Li followed Senior Sister Du to the basilica. Senior Sister Du gestured for him to wait and left quietly. Chu Li stood where he was and looked up at Sun Mingyue without saying a word. Even though Sun Mingyue was in the basilica, she still wore a white veil. Only her beautiful eyes were exposed. Her phoenix eyes were so intimidating that no one dared to look at her directly. Chu Li did not mind and looked at her calmly. She read very quickly. In the blink of an eye, she flipped through one scroll and moved on to another. The tall stack of dossiers on the upper left corner of the table was quickly moved to the upper right corner. She finished reading the dossiers in one breath and looked down at him. Zhao De. Chu Li fist saluted. Greetings, Saint. Did Xiaodu tell you? Yes. What do you think? Ridiculous. Sun Mingyue frowned and narrowed her eyes at him coldly. Chu Li sneered. Saint, you agreed to his request? He's sure that he'll be able to get his revenge. Of course, I agree. Sun Mingyue lightly said, don't you want to avenge Patrol Chong? Why should I avenge him? Chu Li said impatiently. He was unlucky and actually died in the Ji dynasty. He's a laughingstock to the world and a disgrace to the Holy Church of Light. It doesn't matter if someone like him dies. How dare you? Sun Mingyue shouted. Chu Li replied disapprovingly. Besides, if you want to take revenge, then take revenge. Why are you dragging me into this? I'm currently undergoing isolated cultivation in Gale City, and it's a crucial moment that I can't afford to be delayed. Why do you have to bother me with these boring things? Can't you see that I'm in peace? Zhao De, you're getting more and more impudent. Sun Mingyue frowned and scoffed. Do you think that I don't dare to punish you? Chu Li asked. Which rule did I break? Sun Mingyue took a deep breath. Her voluptuous chest, which was covered by her loose white robe, heaved up and down violently. She said coldly, your words are too heartless. I've never even met that Senior Brother Chong or that Senior Brother Deng. Chu Li said helplessly, what friendship? I won't deal with it hypocritically. Just because we're all part of the Holy Church, we're as close as a family. This is too fake. Shut up. Sun Mingyue snorted. Chu Li stopped and looked at her quietly. Sun Mingyue said, if you can help Deng Datong kill Li Hanyan, I'll promote you to patrol. Chu Li frowned and looked at her. Is there still a vacancy for patrol? You don't have to worry about that, Sun Mingwei said. Chu Li shook his head. I'm not going. Are you going to disobey me again? Sun Mingwei glared at him coldly. Her eyes were filled with coldness. Chu Li said, Saint, aren't you deliberately making things difficult for me? Killing two birds with one stone. What's so difficult about it? Sun Mingwei scoffed. If the two of you work together, that Li Hanyin will be beheaded no matter how powerful she is. Chu Li scoffed. The key isn't killing Li Hanyin, it's Deng Datong. What do you mean? Sun Mingwei asked. Chu Li scoffed. Saint, you're so smart. Do I need to explain? This time, Deng Datong was too unreasonable. If I agree, what about the next time? Everyone will want to order me around. Why should I be ordered around by them? He suggested it, and I agreed. Sun Mingwei said coldly. Chu Li shook his head. Then forgive me for not being able to comply. Sun Mingwei stared at him coldly. Chu Li refused to back down and stare back at her. Their gazes seemed to be clashing in the air, like swords clashing. Sparks flew. If that's the case, you should move your position as the branch leader of Gale Branch, Sun Mingwei said as she looked away. Chu Li said, even if I'm expelled from the Holy Church of Light, I won't bow down. Either you work with him to kill Li Hanyin, or you remove your position as the branch leader, Sun Mingwei said. Chu Li said, Saint, you think I'm not suitable to be the branch leader, so you want to give it to someone else, right? You know my temper, but you're purposely making things difficult for me. Why? This is a very common thing, but you're taking it as an insult. Sun Mingwei scoffed. Your thinking is too extreme. Deng Datong wants to ask you for help because your martial arts is brilliant. Everyone in the church knows about it. She was purposely making things difficult for Chu Li to test his temper. If he was not tactful enough, how could he get along with the other disciples of the Holy Church? If he was not patient enough, how could he ascend to a high position? Although the priest and altar leader needed powerful martial arts and sufficient merits, if his temperament was not good and he threw tantrums at the slightest provocation, it would be detrimental to the Holy Church. If he ascended to a high position with such a temper, he would cause a lot of trouble. Therefore, she tried every possible way to polish Chu Li and get rid of his temper. An unpolished jade was worthless. Chu Li sneered. The priest and altar leader are both highly skilled in martial arts. Why didn't he ask for their help? It's because your position is low, Sun Mingwei said. Chu Li said, no matter how low my position is, not everyone can order me around. Yes, even I can't order you around, let alone others. Sun Mingwei said sarcastically. Looks like you don't want to be the branch leader anymore. Chu Li said, Saint, if you really want to force me, I'll kill Li Hanyin before he does. Let's see if he's worthy of being a patrol. It seemed like Li Hanyin was going to suffer revenge from the Holy Church of Light. This was a good opportunity for her to make a name for herself. Although she had made a name for herself, it was only in the Great Ji dynasty. If she could fight evenly with the Holy Church of Light, it would be more beneficial to her reputation, and it would be more intimidating to others. Snow Lunar Pavilion was peaceful now. This was related to his deterrence and the rise of Li Hanyin. Ruthless Fairy was famous. Sun Mingwei stared at him. Chu Li stared back at her, unwilling to be outdone. Both of them were in a stalemate again. Sun Mingwei had to suppress him no matter what. Otherwise, she would lose all her prestige, and the disciples of the Holy Church would dare to disobey her. Saint, Senior Brother Deng, is outside asking for an audience. Senior Sister Du's voice was heard. Let him in, Sun Mingwei said. Her eyes were still on Chu Li. Chu Li shifted his gaze to the entrance of the basilica. A tall, thin, and handsome young man walked in slowly and gave a fist salute respectfully. Greetings, Saint. Deng Datong Zhao De is here. Sun Mingwei waved her hand. Deng Datong gave a fist salute. He smiled at Chu Li and said, Junior Brother Zhao, please take care of me. Chu Li gave a fist salute expressionlessly. Chapter 12:10. Chu Li replied, Without my help, would Senior Brother Deng have been able to kill Li Hanyin? This Deng Datong hesitated before shaking his head. That woman is truly powerful, or else Senior Brother Chang wouldn't have lost to her. My martial arts skills are similar to Senior Brother Chang's. I'm afraid I might not be your match. Chu Li replied, I could have killed Li Hanyan without your help, Senior Brother Deng. Oh, Deng Datong smiled disapprovingly. Although Junior Brother Zhao is powerful, you've only been cultivating for a short period of time. Li Hanyan, on the other hand, is a genius. I heard that her aptitude is not inferior to Chu Li's. She rose like a comet in just 2 years. She mustn't be underestimated. Who does Chu Li think he is? Chu Li sneered. Deng Datong became even more disapproving. Junior Brother Zhao, Du Feng of the south, and Chu Li of the north. I heard that Du Feng killed Prince and of the Ji dynasty and was hunted by the Ji dynasty emperor, but he managed to escape to the Fu dynasty. Chu Li said, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about Li Hanyan. Senior Brother Deng, you couldn't have killed Li Hanyan, but you made such a military pledge and even tied me up to help you. You're taking advantage of the situation without risking anything. I'm impressed. He squinted at him with a sarcastic expression. Hee, you're too kind. I still need Junior Brother Zhao's help. Deng Datong was not ashamed and was instead very proud. Chu Li said coldly, I'm curious. Would the saint allow such a thing to happen? Sun Mingwei said, the Holy Church advocates not sticking to one pattern. Martial arts isn't the only thing that matters in making contributions. It also requires wisdom and skill. Since he has such guts and means, why would he object? That's true. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Senior Brother Deng, I'll have to disappoint you. I won't help you. Deng Datong was stunned and his expression changed. Junior Brother Zhao, why? Why should I help you? Chu Li said lazily. Why should I help you? If you had discussed it with me before making such a decision, that would have been fine. But you acted first and reported later. You didn't even tell me and forcefully kidnapped me into the carriage. How could I agree to that? This is something that benefits everyone. Why not? Deng Datong said in surprise. I've become a patrol inspector, and Junior Brother Zhao, you've also performed a meritorious deed. Although you can't become a patrol inspector, I'm sure you'll be able to do it next time. Chu Li said coldly, Brother Deng, if it wasn't for you this time, I would have definitely become the patrol. You stole my position, and I still have to help you. How can there be such a good thing in this world? I see. Deng Datong shook his head and said, Junior Brother Zhao, you should be broad-minded. You're still young, and it's not appropriate for you to suddenly become a patrol. It's not too late to train for another 2 years. Chu Li scoffed. In terms of martial arts and contributions, Senior Brother Deng, you're better than me in both. You still want to scheme against me and take advantage of your seniority. You're really blind. His words had already turned hostile, and he did not hesitate to mock him. Deng Datong's expression did not change as he smiled and said to Sun Mingwei, Holy Maiden, Junior Brother Zhao is still young and full of vigor. Sun Mingwei was calm and did not say a word. It was obvious that she wanted the two of them to discuss it among themselves. Chu Li sneered and said, just because he's young, he should train for another 2 years. What a joke. The Holy Maiden is young. That's not what I meant. Deng Datong hurriedly waved his hand and looked at Sun Mingwei helplessly. Sun Mingwei secretly shook her head. Deng Datong's tactics were powerful and he was thick-skinned, but his eloquence was far inferior to Chu Li's. She waved her hand and said, Deng Datong, you'll have to deal with the assistant yourself. If you can convince him, do it. If you can't, find someone else. Zhao Dei isn't the only one with great martial arts in the Holy Church of Light. Deng Datong hesitated. He originally wanted to use the saint to pressure Chu Li and force him to agree. However, the saint obviously did not want to force Zhao Dei, so he was forced into a corner. He said helplessly, Junior Brother Zhao, you're going to be promoted to patrol soon. As long as you make another contribution this time, it'll be your turn next time. Chu Li said, the next time I encounter a shameless person like Senior Brother Deng who uses despicable means, I won't be promoted to patrol. His sarcasm were tantamount to a torrent of abuse. However, Deng Datong's expression did not change. Chu Li was shocked by his shamelessness. It was rare to see such a shameless person. It seemed like he should not be underestimated. Sun Mingwei glanced at him. She knew that Chu Li was harboring killing intent. Deng Datong said, "Tell me, junior brother Zhao, what do you want in exchange for your help?" Chu Li scoffed and said, "I won't help you with this. Be sensible and choose someone else. See you." He turned to leave after he finished speaking. "Wait." Deng Datong stood in front of him. "Junior brother Zhao, I'll agree to anything as long as the conditions are right. Tell me about it." Chu Li kept walking forward and was about to bump into Deng Datong. Deng Datong's expression darkened. "Junior brother Zhao, why are you so proud? Are you sure that you won't need my help in the future?" "I won't," Chu Li said coldly. He almost touched Deng Datong's shoulder, but he did not stop. Deng Datong did not move away either. Their shoulders pressed against each other. Chu Li curled his lips in disdain and lightly shook his shoulder. Bang! Deng Datong was sent flying and crashed into a round and thick red lacquer pillar. He went limp as if he had lost his bones. He slid down the pillar and looked at Chu Li with soulless eyes. Chu Li shook his head and said, "Senior brother Deng, you're too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind. With such insignificant martial arts, you actually want to go against Li Hanyin? I advise you to give up. Don't throw your life away." "Zhao De," Sun Mingwei scoffed. Chu Li said, "I didn't fight. I just bumped into him. My hands didn't move." Sun Mingwei said, "You hit him so hard." Chu Li said, "I was reflecting the force. I reflected back the same amount of force that senior brother Deng used." Sun Mingwei waved her hand. "Get lost." Chu Li was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he looked at Deng Datong. "Senior brother Deng, you're so cruel. You hit him so hard, but you still hurt yourself. How is it? You won't die, right?" Deng Datong did not move. His blood was boiling. His body felt like water and fire were fighting. They could not merge, and his body had become their battlefield. His organs felt like they were being cut by a knife. His body was limp, and he could not exert any strength. He struggled to say, Junior brother Zhao, don't lie. This isn't my inner energy." Chu Li smiled. "I forgot to tell you. I've cultivated the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. I can reverse yin and yang. Your inner energy is of extreme yin. I've turned it into extreme yang and sent it back. It feels good, doesn't it?" "You." Deng Datong pointed at him. His eyes were filled with anger. Chu Li's proud smile turned into a sneer. "Next time, keep your eyes open. You can't take advantage of just anyone. Saint, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving." "Zhao De, help him kill Li Hanyin," Sun Mingwei said. Chu Li was stunned. He looked at her helplessly. Sun Mingwei said, "Li Hanyin's martial arts is outstanding. She's especially good at killing people. She's a threat. You two should work together to kill her." Chu Li glanced at Deng Datong and suddenly nodded. Yes, he had a deep understanding of people's hearts. When he met Sun Mingwei alone, he would not save her face. He would oppose her if necessary. However, at this time, he would not be so unscrupulous. He could feel Sun Mingwei's determination. Hence, he took a step back and agreed. He was no longer as stubborn as before. Sun Mingwei secretly sighed in relief. She was worried that he would resist. She looked at Chu Li. "Remember, the disciples of the church are not allowed to kill each other. If you go against this, you know the consequences." "Of course." Chu Li smiled. Sun Mingwei scoffed. "Go." Chu Li said, "Senior brother Deng, I'll leave first. You can look for me in Gale City." Without waiting for Deng Datong's reply, Chu Li glided away. Deng Datong's face turned purple. He was in great pain. He was slightly regretful. He knew that Zhao De was powerful, but he did not expect him to be this powerful. Moreover, he had such a bad character. He thought it was just a rumor. Now, he knew that it was not an exaggeration. Chapter 12:11. P.S. The 42nd Alliance leader, Alan. Sun Mingwei glanced at Deng Datong and said calmly, "Be careful of Zhao De." Yes, Deng Datong understood what she meant. He was also a little worried. Zhao Dai had the experience of killing an altar master, so he would not be lenient when it came to killing fellow disciples of the Holy Church. He originally thought that Zhao Dai was young and that he would be able to appease him with just a few words. However, it seemed like Zhao Dai did not fall for it at all. Sun Mingyue said, "You've made a mistake this time. I don't think there's any hope." Deng Datong's expression changed, and he forced a smile. "Saint, does he really dare to disobey orders?" Sun Mingyue said calmly, "He's not afraid of death. Even if he doesn't dare to disobey orders, he won't obediently carry them out. I think he'll play some tricks. You should be careful." She was disdainful of Deng Datong, but as a saint, she had to be fair and would not use people based on her preferences. No matter how disdainful he was, she could not abandon him. Otherwise, it would be unfair and people would retreat, which would not benefit the Holy Church. If the Holy Church wanted to be strong, it had to be inclusive. Just like the ocean, there must be clear and muddy currents, or else it would not be far from destruction. This kind of controlling technique was the basic ability of a saintess. Deng Datong groaned in his heart and nodded reluctantly. "Go, there are 8 days left." Sun Mingyue said, "Do you know where Li Hanyin is now? I'll find her outside Snow Lunar Pavilion." Deng Datong smiled. "I just need to kill a few Snow Lunar Pavilion disciples to lure her out. Snow Lunar Pavilion is not to be trifled with. You have to be careful." Sun Mingyue frowned. They are inextricably linked to Du Feng and also have connections with Chu Li. They are under his protection. You might encounter Chu Li. That's what I'm looking for." Deng Datong smiled. Sun Mingyue saw that he did not care and frowned secretly, but she did not think too much about it. She was only responsible for giving orders. As for how her subordinates completed their tasks, she would not interfere. Everyone had their own way of doing things. Some were even deviant, but they were very effective. She waved her hand. Deng Datong struggled to stand up, cupped his fists, and respectfully retreated. As soon as he left the Light Palace, he stumbled down the steps. His face was so dark that water was about to drip out. He clenched his teeth, his eyes spitting fire. Even a clay doll had a temper. Moreover, he had always thought highly of himself. Chu Li had humiliated him in such a manner, but he was trying to maintain his poise in front of the saint. He did not want to ruin his image, or else he would have his face darkened again. He wanted to take care of this fellow, but he was actually unable to defeat him. His cultivation was truly astonishing. Only now did he realize that he had underestimated this fellow. Pooh! He bent down again and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face suddenly became as pale as a sheet of paper. The two auras, which had been slowly calming down, once again clashed violently. It was as if the two sides were fighting again after a pause, and the conflict was even more intense. Two opposing auras clashed in his body, and his internal organs felt like they were being stirred up. He felt like his body was no longer his own and was being completely controlled by the two inner forces clashing against each other without restraint. He spat out a mouthful of blood and sat weakly on the ground. This was the peak of the Great Light Peak. The strong wind was piercingly cold, and the cold air was like a knife. Previously, when he was full of inner energy, he had inner energy to protect his body, so the cold air could not enter his body. Now that he was suddenly weakened, the cold air took the opportunity to enter his body. In the blink of an eye, his lips were frozen and his body was numb. He was terrified. If this went on, he would probably freeze to death in 10 minutes. Senior Brother Deng, Du Ying, a young lady in green, happened to pass by and noticed his abnormal condition. She stopped and asked with concern. She was a young lady in green who brought Chu Li back earlier. Deng Datong could no longer speak, and even the muscles on his face were frozen. He could only move his eyes, revealing a look of anxiety. Unfortunately, those who were not familiar with him could not see the meaning in his eyes. Du Ying looked at him suspiciously, but when she saw that he was not moving and his expression was ugly, she did not dare to touch him. This situation seemed like he was possessed. She turned her head to look around, but no one was around. Senior Brother Deng, wait for a moment. I'll call someone over, the young lady in green said. Deng Datong was so anxious that he wanted to scream. If this went on, he would freeze to death. That would be a big joke. He secretly cursed Chu Li. This inner energy was really vicious, and it came wave after wave. If this went on, he would really be killed. Was Zhao De really that bold to kill him? Senior Brother Li, Doing suddenly called out in surprise. A middle-aged man fluttered over and said in a deep voice, Junior Sister Du, I want to see the saint. What are you? Senior Brother Li, quickly take a look at Senior Brother Deng. What's wrong? Doing quickly pointed at Deng Datong, who was sitting on the ground, trembling from the cold. The middle-aged man, Li Tsubing, glanced at him. Oh, he's injured. Then quickly save Senior Brother Deng. Doing quickly said. Li Tsubing said, It's better not to move him in this condition. Deng Datong cursed in his heart. Li Tsubing, how dare you leave him in the lurch? It's just a small misunderstanding. Doing asked, What should we do? Give him a spirit pill, Li Tsubing said plainly. Give him a hand. Yes, give him a spirit pill. Doing quickly nodded and took out a porcelain bottle from her sleeve. I only have this fortifying pill. Help Senior Brother Deng replenish his inner energy. Very good, Li Tsubing said. Doing stuffed the fortifying pill into Deng Datong's mouth. Deng Datong was almost frozen and could not open his mouth. Li Tsubing reached out and pried open his mouth, leaving clear fingerprints on Deng Datong's cheeks. Deng Datong's face was already numb, and he could not feel any pain. After the fortifying pill entered his body, the two inner energies, one yin and one yang, increased at the same time. They were originally from the same source, and the fortifying pill replenished both of them at the same time. It was as if he was injected with new energy, tossing and turning more violently, causing his organs to suffer more damage. Puffed. Deng Datong spat out another mouthful of blood. This time, he could not open his mouth, and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Senior Brother Deng, Doing was shocked and quickly turned to look at Li Tsubing. Li Tsubing frowned. It seems that his injuries are not light. I can't care anymore. Let me carry him. Okay. Doing quickly agreed. Li Tsubing said, Junior Sister Du, come with us. I don't think that's necessary. Doing said. Li Tsubing shook his head. I have some grudges with this guy. If anything happens to him, I won't be able to explain myself. All right then. Doing smiled. But I believe that no matter what, Senior Brother Li will not kill Senior Brother Deng. That's true. Li Tsubing nodded. Although this old Deng is a little shameless, our grudge is not that big. As he spoke, he lifted Deng Datong by the collar and glided down. Doing followed him to a small courtyard halfway up the mountain. It was Li Tsubing's courtyard. Chapter 12:12. Li Tsubing placed Deng Datong on the bed and took a look at him before shaking his head. I didn't expect him to be so badly injured. Was he punished by the saint? That can't be. Doing hurriedly said, The saint wouldn't do it. Li Tsubing said, Then who else could it be? It can't be that he was overwhelmed by anger and went berserk, right? Was he frightened by the saint? Doing asked. She had seen such situations many times. The saint's aura was too strong. Even the most powerful of heroes would be dwarfed in front of the saint. They would lose their momentum, and if they were taught a lesson by the saint, their blood would boil and they would lose control. Although it was not to the extent of injury, it was still quite frightening. Perhaps Deng Datong was even more frightened. Li Tsubing scoffed. This old Deng has no other skills, but he's audacious and thick-skinned. He's unparalleled. Could it be Junior Brother Zhao? Doing hesitated. Li Tsubing said, Which Junior Brother Zhao? Junior Brother Zhao De. Doing said, Senior Brother Deng wants Junior Brother Zhao to help kill Li Hanyin and avenge Senior Brother Chong. Oh, about that. Li Tsubing curled his lips. Old Deng must have been possessed. Doing sighed and shook her head without saying anything. She did not think much of it, but since the saint did not say anything, she had nothing else to say. Li Tsubing said, That Zhao De is not to be trifled with. It's fine if old Deng flaunts his authority in front of others, but he's simply courting death by doing that to Zhao Dei. Doing sighed softly. The saint agreed too. Of course the saint wouldn't object directly, or old Deng would be dissatisfied. Did old Deng meet with junior brother Zhao? Yes, they were both in the Divine Light Basilica. I know. It must be junior brother Zhao's doing. This time old Deng has kicked a steel plate, haha. Li Tsubing laughed heartily. He was overjoyed and felt extremely satisfied. Finally, someone had taught him a harsh lesson. Senior brother Li, what about senior brother Deng's injury? Doing asked, is it serious? He won't die. Li Tsubing laughed. Puffed. Deng Datong spat out another mouthful of black blood. He was limp and unable to move. Compared to the stiffness he felt earlier, he was much better. When the two inner energies clashed in his body, the cold energy had seized the opportunity to invade his body. After returning here, the two inner energies had destroyed the cold energy, allowing him to survive. Otherwise, the cold energy would have frozen him to death. The strong winds on Great Light Peak could really freeze people to death. Is that enough, old Deng? Li Tsubing scoffed. Deng Datong's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. The purplish hue had faded from his skin, but the fingerprints on his face were even clearer. He won't die, right? Li Tsubing asked. Deng Datong shook his head and said, I won't die. His voice was dry and hoarse, like a broken gong. Li Tsubing chuckled. You were defeated by junior brother Zhao? This guy is truly vicious. Deng Datong said hatefully. His eyes seemed to be spewing fire as he gritted his teeth. Then he felt the pain on his cheeks and glared at Li Tsubing. Li Tsubing smiled and said, I couldn't care less just now. I thought you were going to die. Do you want me to heal you? Thank you very much, Deng Datong said bluntly. Deng Datong felt Li Tsubing's pulse. Although Deng Datong was angry at Deng Datong and wanted to play tricks on him, he would not go so far as to kill Deng Datong. He was completely different from Chu Li's ruthlessness. They were brothers from the same sect. Li Tsubing scoffed and sat cross-legged behind Deng Datong. Then he placed his palms on Deng Datong's back and began channeling. Bang! Li Tsubing suddenly flew backward and crashed into the wall. He hung there motionlessly, and only a bitter smile appeared on his face. Senior brother Li? Doing cried out. Li Tsubing spat out a mouthful of blood, staining the bed red. He smiled bitterly and said, How powerful! What's wrong? Doing asked hurriedly. Li Tsubing shook his head. Uff! Deng Datong spat out another mouthful of blood. He sighed to himself. After recovering from his injuries, he needed to replenish his blood. He had already spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Blood was vital energy. If he did not replenish it, his cultivation level would be affected. This damn Zhao Dei. Senior brother Deng, senior brother Li, what's wrong? Doing asked in surprise. Li Tsubing said, Old Deng's inner force is too strong. I can't compare. Deng Datong smiled bitterly. Looks like I'll have to ask for your help. Deng Datong's cultivation level was now twice as high as it used to be. If any inner force tried to invade his body, he would immediately be attacked by two different inner forces. One was yin, and the other was yang. One was like water, and the other was like fire. The power of the combined attack was not only superimposed, but it was also several times stronger. As such, no one in the same generation could withstand it. Li Tsubing smiled gloatingly. Which senior can help you? I don't think there's any hope. Deng Datong frowned. He was not very popular among the seniors. It seemed that none of them liked him, so he was afraid that no one could help him. If it really doesn't work, I'll ask the saint. Deng Datong scoffed. Doing shook her head. The saint won't help easily. Otherwise, she'll die of exhaustion. The saint will only help if his life is in danger. However, she won't cure him. She'll only stop after saving him. The saint's time is precious. Deng Datong's face turned bitter. Are we going to drag this on? This Zhao Dei is so vicious. He finally understood why Zhao Dei agreed so readily. It turned out that he knew that he would be injured and could not be cured in 8 days. How despicable. Deng sighed. Senior brother Deng, Junior brother, Zhao, has been stumbling since he joined the sect. He looks like a fool, and everyone could take advantage of him. In fact, he hasn't taken advantage of anyone. Deng Datong sighed and shook his head. He had made a mistake this time. He thought that Zhao Dai was easy to bully. He did not expect him to turn hostile and attack him in front of the saint. However, the saint did not say anything. It was obvious that Zhao Dai knew the saint's bottom line. He was an extremely smart person. Deng Datong felt a little regretful. If he knew that Zhao Dai was such a person, he would not have used this method. He believed that Zhao Dai would not have given in if he had used other methods. However, it was too late to change now. He had lost all decorum and was injured. Junior Sister Du, I can only ask for your help. Please help me report to the saint. Deng Datong sighed. Duing nodded. I'll report to the saint. Thank you very much. Deng Datong gave a fist salute. Duing turned around and left the courtyard. Li Tsubing chuckled and shook his head. Old Deng, I didn't expect this to happen to you. You have to be careful of that, Zhao Dai. Deng Datong scoffed. He's vicious. All right, stop trying to drive a wedge between us. I won't have a conflict with him. You, on the other hand, don't lose your life. Li Tsubing laughed sarcastically. Since you know that he's ruthless, why don't you be more obedient? He can crush you like an ant. Through what Chuli had done to Deng Datong, Li Tsubing was already in awe. Such a person was not on the same level as him. He could not afford to offend him. He wouldn't dare. Deng Datong said confidently, if anything happens to me, the saint won't let him go. So what? Li Tsubing said, you're already dead. He could even survive killing an altar leader, let alone a powerless person like you. Chapter 12:13. Li Tsubing looked at him with a smile and shook his head. Clearly, he was really afraid. Deng Datong frowned. Do you think he'll really kill me? Who knows? Deng Datong sighed and shook his head. No, he won't dare. Then let's see if he dares. Don't scare me. Ha! Li Tsubing laughed and shook his head. Looks like you're scared. Nonsense. Wouldn't you be scared if you were him? He who has not done anything shameful is not afraid of ghosts. Li Tsubing shook his head. I think you should reflect on yourself. Don't keep thinking about taking advantage of others. It's not a long-term solution. Let's talk after we get through this. I think you should just give up. Li Tsubing shook his head. Think about it. If you force him to help you, he'll definitely fall out with you. I'm not willing to give up just like that. Deng Datong sighed. Then wait until you're dead. Li Tsubing said impatiently. Let's not talk about anything else. Let's talk after you get through this. Deng Datong thought about his injuries and frowned. It was impossible for him to recover on his own. If he wanted to recover as soon as possible, he had to find help from others. However, he had taken too many advantages and lost his social standing. At this crucial moment, they would not help him in his hour of need. They would only kick him when he was down. All right, think about it yourself. I have something to do at the Divine Light Basilica. After that, I'll go down the mountain. You could stay for a while. I'll be back in 10 days. Li Tsubing stood up and chuckled. 10 days. Deng Datong was anxious when he heard that. He could not calm down. Li Tsubing laughed and left the courtyard. Deng Datong was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chuli suddenly appeared at Snow Lunar Pavilion. In the waterside pavilion on the Snow Crescent Lake, Suru's waterside pavilion was still there. He appeared in Suru's waterside pavilion, not Li Hanyan's waterside pavilion directly. He was worried that something awkward would happen. After all, men and women were different. His divine mirror quickly scanned Li Hanyan's house. Li Hanyan was not there. He furrowed his brows. He did not want to enter Snow Lunar Pavilion with his true appearance. He did not want to expose his relationship with Du Feng. Li Hanyan knew her identity, so she was not afraid. Using the omniscient mirror, he soon found Li Hanyan in the martial arts field. She was practicing her swordsmanship alone in a corner. Her swordsmanship was swift and fierce, and she was filled with murderous intent. The surroundings were bustling with activity. Everyone was practicing their own martial arts, and no one dared to approach Li Hanyan. It was not because Li Hanyan's martial arts was powerful, but because her swordplay was too murderous. Anyone who got close to her would feel as if they were placed in a frigid ice cellar. Their entire body was chilled, and they were chilled from the bottom of their hearts. Chuli shook his head and smiled. It seemed that Li Hanyan's authority in the Snow Lunar Pavilion was growing by the day. Li Hanyan sensed something and suddenly stopped her swordplay. She glanced at her waterside pavilion before sheathing her sword and drifting away. The people around her unconsciously heaved a sigh of relief and looked at her graceful back. A moment later, Li Hanyan fluttered over to Suru's waterside pavilion. She gently pushed the door open and entered. Instantly, a smile broke out on her frosty oval face. Chuli waved his hand. Li Hanyan gracefully approached him, her faint fragrance wafting through the air. "Brother Chu." Chuli looked at her from head to toe. Other than becoming more beautiful and radiant, the chill around her was getting thicker, and her cultivation level had improved greatly. "Brother Chu, why are you here?" Li Hanyan smiled sweetly. Chuli shook his head. "Look at the trouble you've caused." "How did I cause trouble?" Li Hanyan scoffed. Chuli said, "You killed a patrol from the Holy Church of Light? You know?" Li Hanyan stuck out her tongue and scoffed. "He's really blind. Do you know how big of a mess you've caused?" Chuli said. Li Hanyan scoffed. "It's just a patrol. What's the big deal?" "Then do you know how many patrols the Holy Church of Light has?" Chuli shook his head. "The Holy Church of Light won't just let this go." "What are you going to do?" "I'll just deal with whatever comes my way," Li Hanyan said. Chuli said, "They'll send 2 or more patrols. Can you handle it alone?" "Hee, I still have you, Brother Chu." Li Hanyan smiled sweetly. Chuli broke into laughter. "No wonder you're so daring." Li Hanyan smiled. "Would they really send so many people?" "Yes," Chuli said. "Based on their style of doing things, they won't let this go. Come on, I was just thinking of killing a few more to let everyone know that Snow Lunar Pavilion isn't a pushover." Li Hanyan smiled coldly. Chuli frowned. "There are still people out there who are ready to make trouble. I've never given up." Li Hanyan sneered. "They're all bastards who won't give up until they see their coffins. I can't wait to kill them all." "You still chant scriptures every day, right?" "Of course. Seems like it's no use. Your bloodlust is getting stronger." Chuli shook his head and pondered for a moment. "I'll pass you a scripture later. You'll chant this instead." "Brotherly, there's no contradiction between chanting scriptures and killing." Li Hanyan smiled. "I kill to save people. My heart is full of mercy." Chuli broke into laughter and shook his head. "If you want to continue killing, you might as well go to the Fu dynasty." "I heard that there are many masters in the Fu dynasty." Li Hanyan frowned. "I'm afraid I won't be able to move an inch." Chuli said, "With your current cultivation level, it's fine to be careful. If I go to the Fu dynasty and the Holy Church of Light can't find me, will they kill our disciples?" Li Hanyan was slightly worried. Chuli said, "Then let the whole world know and let the Holy Church of Light hunt you down in the Fu dynasty." "Why?" Li Hanyan was puzzled. She felt that Chuli must have a deeper meaning. Chuli said, "The Holy Church of Light is powerful. Every move you make in the Ji dynasty will be heard, but it's different in the Fu dynasty. They don't have much influence in the Fu dynasty, so I can secretly help you kill them." He had a weak connection with the Holy Church of Light. Ever since Li Ruolin's death, it was as if his connection with the Holy Church of Light had been cut off. Sun Mingwei had been suppressing him to train him, but he did not appreciate it at all. Moreover, Sun Mingwei did not care about personal feelings. She only cared about the Holy Church of Light. She would do anything that was beneficial to the Holy Church of Light and would not do anything that was not beneficial. She had the mentality of an empress. Chuli hated this the most. It was the same for the Ji dynasty's emperor, Lung Wufeng, and it was the same for other people. He wanted to beat them to the ground to vent his anger. If he could help Li Hanyan kill the disciples of the Holy Church of Light, he would be delighted. As long as he did not expose his identity, the more he killed, the better. "All right, I'll leave tomorrow," Li Hanyan said with a smile. She could almost see herself killing the Holy Church of Light's masters with a swing of her sword. Her eyes shone brighter and brighter, and she could not wait to leave now. Chuli smiled and nodded. "If anything goes wrong, call me immediately." "Okay." Li Hanyan nodded vigorously. Chapter 12:14. P.S. Thank you, forget unhappy boss for supporting us again. Only then did Chu Li feel completely relieved. Brotherly, do you want to see my sword technique? Li Hanyin asked hurriedly when she saw that he was about to leave. Chu Li pondered for a moment and nodded. Your swordsmanship is already very good. You just need to continue to improve it. Moreover, as you continue to fight, your understanding will become deeper and deeper. What suits you the best is the best. The same set of swordsmanship can only be used differently by different people. You can't force things. Yes, Li Hanyin nodded and said, I understand, but I still want Brother Li to give me some pointers. All right, Chu Li nodded. He reached out and grabbed Li Hanyin's wrist. He could feel the firmness and elasticity of her wrist even through the sleeve. Then, the two of them suddenly disappeared. Chu Li and him appeared on the island of the House of High Dukes. On this small island, he was the most relaxed. He did not need to be on guard against anyone. Otherwise, even if he was in King Anne's imperial residence, he would subconsciously be on guard. It was not Li Hanyin's first time here. She would occasionally come here to play. She glanced around and saw Xue Ling. She smiled at her. Xue smiled back at her. You two can spar more, Chu Li said with a smile. Xue Ling said, Sister Li's cultivation level has improved greatly. I can't compare to you. Ever since she had become a Grand Master, she no longer had an ardent desire to cultivate. She was often tied up with miscellaneous matters. Compared to cultivating, she preferred to help Chu Li with trivial matters, including the matters of the Glory's Will courtyard. Li Hanyin laughed. I don't deserve it. Yes, Xue Ling has indeed been slacking off recently. Chu Li nodded. But her foundation is pretty good. She cultivated the Crescent Cryptic, which was the most difficult to cultivate. The beginning was difficult, but the later stages were much faster. With Chu Li's help, she had built a solid foundation. Now, even if she did not focus on cultivating, her cultivation speed was not slow. In fact, it was much faster than the average person. Xue Ling smiled. Master, do I still need to continue cultivating? Of course, there's no end to cultivation. If you don't advance, you'll fall behind. Chu Li nodded and said, You should focus your mind. Everything else is not worth mentioning compared to cultivation. Yes, Xue Ling answered crisply. The three of them appeared in an empty space in the middle of the flower bed. It was the place where they cultivated. Chu Li said, Let's learn from each other. You'll have to figure out how to improve it yourself. Yes, Li Hanyin answered excitedly. Chu Li had always adopted this method of imparting knowledge to her. Most of the time, it was to inspire her instead of directly imparting martial arts to her, so that she could comprehend something of her own. Chu Li extended his hand, and Xue Ling handed him a long sword. Li Hanyin unsheathed her sword and shouted, Watch my sword. Her body moved like a ghost and instantly appeared in front of Chu Li, the tip of her sword already stabbing towards him. Chu Li swung his sword lightly. Li Hanyin's long sword bounced off, and she stabbed again, unwilling to admit defeat. She felt that the strength of the sword wasn't great, but it was just right. It was such an exquisite strike that could turn the tide of the battle at a crucial moment. Of course, she would not let it go, so she continued to strike. Chu Li swung his sword again. Li Hanyin's sword was deflected once again. She was defenseless. Great sword technique. She let out a delicate shout and continued to strike with her sword. Her sword momentum became even faster as she wanted to see if she could break this exquisite sword. Chu Li still only used this one sword technique. No matter how Li Hanyin changed her moves, he could always deflect it easily. No matter how exquisite her moves were, she could not perform them. In one breath, she stabbed more than 20 times. Li Hanyin said helplessly, Brotherly, is there a way to break this sword technique? Yes. Chu Li smiled. There is no martial art in the world that can't be broken. Then how do you break it? You should learn how to use it first before you break it. Then teach me, Li Hanyin said in a coquettish tone. You can figure out yourself. Chu Li shook his head. I'll teach you. You'll only learn one move. Actually, all the moves can be used like this. Li Hanyin pondered and continued to strike. She struck more than 100 times in one breath, but she still could not get the hang of it. Chu Li patiently struck with his sword. Every strike was effortless, as if it was done casually. Li Hanyin felt like she was a child swinging a sword in front of Chu Li. All the moves were full of flaws and could not withstand a single blow. This made her feel discouraged. Initially, she thought that after such a long period of hard work, she could close the gap between her and Chu Li. Now, it seemed that the gap was getting farther and farther away. Chu Li did not say a word. He only struck with his sword, hoping that she could comprehend it. If she could comprehend it, her swordsmanship would be upgraded to another level. With this energy in her sword, her power would increase tremendously. Even if she encountered someone with a stronger inner energy than her, she would still have a chance of winning. Doing fluttered to the divine light basilica and curtsied. Sun Mingwei glanced at her. "What's the matter? You're in such a hurry. Saint, something bad has happened," Du Ling hurriedly said. "Tell me." Sun Mingwei put down the dossier and looked at her. "What is it?" "Senior brother Deng is badly injured," Du Ling said. Sun Mingwei frowned. "It's not normal to be injured. What's wrong? But isn't he going to kill Li Hanyin soon?" "Now that he's so badly injured, it's impossible for him to go." "Yes. Saint, this is a big mistake." "It's nothing. It's just a mistake. Are we just going to watch Li Hanyin get away scot-free?" Du Ling frowned. "Are we not going to avenge Senior Brother Chong? If Deng Datong can't do it, there'll be someone else." Sun Mingwei calmly said, "Isn't there still Zhao Day? Saintus, how could Junior Brother Zhao help us in this situation?" "That might not be the case. You can't judge Zhao Day with common sense." Sun Mingwei said, "All right, don't worry about this. Is there anything else?" "Oh, it's about Junior Brother Zhao. He's returned to Gale City and asked me to pass a message to you." "Say it." "Junior Brother Zhao said that he's going to cripple his own martial arts." "Then let him do it," Sun Mingwei said impatiently. "I'd like to see how he's going to do it." Junior Brother Zhao said that the saint won't let him live. He can't avenge himself even if he cultivates martial arts. Instead, he'll be plotted against and used. "He's better off not cultivating martial arts," Du Ling said. She showed a sympathetic expression. She felt that Deng Datong and the saint had gone too far and hurt Junior Brother Zhao's feelings. He's always thinking about good things and being able to avenge himself. Sun Mingwei scoffed. "If I can't avenge myself, what right does he have to do so?" "Yes." Du Ling said nothing. Sun Mingwei said, "Is Deng Datong's injury serious?" "Yes, he almost lost his life." Du Ling nodded. "It seems that Senior Brother Deng can't heal himself and needs help from a senior expert." "All right, I know." Sun Mingwei waved her hand. "Saint, do you want to help him?" "No need," Sun Mingwei said. Du Ling nodded. She did not want the saint to help, nor did she want anyone else to help. Deng Datong should bear the consequences of his own actions. He could survive a natural disaster, but he could not survive a self-inflicted one. Du Ling was secretly happy, but pretended to be worried. Then Senior Brother Deng's military pledge is for nothing. That's his problem. Sun Mingwei said, "We've already helped him too much. If he can't complete his task, he can't blame anyone else." "Yes." Du Ling pursed her lips and smiled. Sun Mingwei knew what she was thinking. She shook her head and smiled. She waved her hand. "Go." Chapter 12:15. Sun Mingwei shook her head and sighed. She got up from the armchair and walked down the stairs. She paced back and forth as she pondered, recalling Chu Li's every move. She could tell that Chu Li was up to no good. His inner energy was strange, but she did not expect Chu Li's cultivation level to be so high that he could injure Deng Datong. Deng Datong had only himself to blame. He had used all his tricks, but it was all for naught. Of course, she knew that Chu Li agreed so readily because he was certain that Deng Datong could not be cured. Zhao Dai was extremely arrogant and unruly. If he did not want to do something, it would be useless no matter how hard he tried to force him to do it. It was not that he did not punish him, but it did not work. The people were not afraid of death, so why should they be afraid of death? When Li Rulin was alive, it was still fine. At least there was someone who could suppress him and make him obedient. Moreover, there were still weaknesses that could be exploited. However, once Li Rulin died, He no longer had any weaknesses. She shook her head and sighed. She still could not come up with any good ideas. However, to men, the most important method was to seduce them with their beauty. Since ancient times, heroes had always been vulnerable to the charms of beauties. It was not just any hero, but almost all heroes could not overcome the charms of beauties. Her eyes flickered as she thought about the women in the church. The disciples of the Holy Church of Light were all carefully selected. Most of the male disciples were handsome, while most of the female disciples were beautiful. It was rare to see someone as ugly as Chu. Heaven and earth often loved one person and focused all of their strengths on one person. Beauty and wisdom often coexisted. Those with outstanding aptitude often had outstanding looks as well. However, there were many beautiful female disciples in the church, but not many of them could move Zhao De. It was not because they were not beautiful enough, but because they could not enter his heart. She sighed and shook her head. It was all because of Li Ruolin. Zhao De's heart was completely shut down because of her death. Du Ying came in quietly. "Saint, why are you back?" Sun Mingwei asked. Du Ying said softly, "I think senior brother Deng fainted." Although she hated Deng Datong, she was worried about him. If he really died, junior brother Zhao would be the one in trouble. He would be punished for killing a fellow disciple and might even be crippled of his martial arts. He had already killed an altar master. If he committed the same crime again, his punishment would be increased and he might even be expelled from the Holy Church. It was too much of a loss for him to do this for Deng Datong. He fainted. Sun Mingwei frowned and said, "Is his injury very serious?" "Yes, I'm afraid his life is in danger. Why don't you go and take a look?" Du Ying carefully observed her expression. Sun Mingwei snorted and said, "Fine, let's go and take a look." Du Ying smiled and quickly said, "Saint, please follow me." The two of them exited the Divine Light Basilica and soon arrived at Li Xubing's courtyard. There, they saw Deng Datong lying on the bed. Deng Datong was already unconscious on the bed, motionless, as if he was dead. His heart would only beat once, and his chest would only rise and fall after a long time. "Saint, is senior brother Deng all right?" Du Ying asked hurriedly. "Yes, I won't die." Sun Mingwei snorted. "That's good." Du Ying patted her perky chest, which trembled a little. Sun Mingwei looked at her magnificent breasts and looked at her beautiful face thoughtfully. "Saint," Du Ying blushed under her stare. Even a woman would feel awkward being stared at there, even if she was the saint. "Yes, it's nothing. I'm thinking about something." Sun Mingwei carefully looked at Du Ying and nodded to herself. Du Ying looked at her suspiciously, but did not think much of it. She stared at Deng Datong and asked, "Saint, are you going to treat senior brother Deng's injury?" "No." Sun Mingwei shook her head. "That's good." Du Ying patted her perky chest again. Sun Mingwei extended her palm and gently patted Deng Datong's chest. After a few hits, her palms were flat in the air, and she gently sucked Deng Datong half a meter away. Deng Datong's body floated up and turned in the air. He floated in the air, facing the sky. Sun Mingwei patted him a few more times before he floated down. Sun Mingwei retracted her palm and said calmly, "Seems like you're very concerned about Zhao De." "No." Du Ying quickly shook her head. Sun Mingwei snorted. "You think I can't tell?" Du Ying quickly said, "No. Saint, I just can't stand senior brother Deng taking advantage of junior brother Zhao. Junior brother Zhao is too pitiful." Sun Mingwei laughed. "You're the first to say that he's pitiful." Du Ying said, "Senior brother Deng schemed against him and the saints oppressed him. He made so many contributions, but he could only be a branch leader in a remote place and was sent far away. Gale City is not a remote place." Sun Mingwei said, "You're too biased." Du Ying smiled embarrassedly. She suddenly remembered that Gale City was also a famous city and not a remote place. However, she felt that it was very far away from Great Light Peak, even though they could reach it in a day. Sun Mingwei said, "Forget it. Go to Gale City again and see if it's biased." "Saint, are you going to punish junior brother Zhao?" "Yes, he hurt Deng Datong so badly. Of course he has to be punished. This can't be blamed on junior brother Zhao, right? He was the one who hurt him. How can we not blame him?" Sun Mingwei said. Doing frowned and said, I think it's very likely that senior brother Deng did this on purpose. Junior brother Zhao didn't hurt him, but he used it as a pretext. You're quite smart. Sun Mingyue shook her head and said, Go. Yes. Doing nodded helplessly. Oh. Deng Datong slowly opened his eyes. Sun Mingyue glanced at him. Of course, Deng Datong's little tricks could not fool her. He had woken up a long time ago, but he kept his eyes closed and pretended to be unconscious. It was obvious that he had woken up when he heard that she wanted to punish Zhao Dei. Deng Datong said, Saint, you really can't blame junior brother Zhao. Oh, you don't blame him? Sun Mingyue's tone was light, as if there was no emotion in it. Deng Datong shook his head and said, I blame myself for not being skilled enough. I'm really ashamed. As a senior brother, I can't compare to a junior brother. I deserve this. Sun Mingyue said, If that's the case, you blame yourself. Yes. Deng Datong nodded slowly. Sun Mingyue said, If you can think that way, I didn't think too highly of you. Thank you, Saint. Deng Datong gave a fist salute with difficulty. All right, since you put it that way, I won't punish him, Sun Mingyue said. Deng Datong let out a strange smile that was indescribably strange. He felt that he had shot himself in the foot again. Since the saint wanted to punish him, she should have done him a favor no matter what, no matter who pleaded on his behalf. Why wouldn't he do her a favor and show his magnanimity? He never thought that the saint would be so out of character and accept his plea. She even changed her mind and did not punish Zhao Dei. He was angry and helpless at the same time. He forced himself to smile, or else the saint would definitely see through him. Doing secretly pursed her lips. She could feel that the saint was teasing him. It was obvious that she was using this opportunity to knock him out of his hypocrisy. She wanted him to be more honest and not play tricks in front of the saint. Take care of yourself. Let's go, Duing, Sun Mingyue said. Chapter 1216. Both of them arrived at the Divine Light Basilica. Sun Mingyue sat on the armchair and looked at her quietly. Duing, you still have to look for Zhao Dei. Saint, Duing quickly called out. Sun Mingyue waved her hand. Rules are rules. Didn't I tell senior brother Deng not to punish junior brother Zhao? Duing said. That was just to fool him, Sun Mingyue said. Do you really think I'll let Zhao Dei off just because of what he said? Senior brother Deng is fine. Who said he's fine? Duing looked at her doubtfully. Sun Mingyue shook her head. Zhao Dei went too far this time. He hurt Deng Datong's foundation. Even if he recovers, he won't be able to do anything for a long time. Duing said, that can't be, right? He didn't go easy on him. He was aiming to destroy Deng Datong's foundation. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Duing remained silent. It's no wonder junior brother Zhao was so ruthless. Senior brother Deng is too hateful. All right, don't. LV Bo. Ruling Ka Fu Xieshi. Chu. Buying kidnapped Mo yes. Duing nodded and did not say anything more. She knew that if she said anything more, the saint would turn on her. She would be asking for trouble. Sun Mingyue looked thoughtful as she watched Du Ying's graceful figure leave the Divine Light Basilica. This scene seemed familiar because she had already used the honey trap once. Back then, she had used Li Ruolin to restrain Zhao Dei. It was like using a rope to restrain a mad dragon. In the end, it was very effective. Now, she was going to use it again. Du Ying and Li Ruolin were similar in their bones, but their appearances were different. One was mature and steady while the other was kind and had a clear distinction between love and hate. She did not hide her feelings, and it was easy for a woman like this to enter Zhao Dei's heart. Now, it was up to Du Ying to break Zhao Dei's heart. If it worked, it would be much easier. She shook her head and sighed. In order to control this Zhao Dei, she had spent the most effort. Currently, it seemed like the results were the worst. She was still unable to control him completely. She could not command him as if she was her own arm. She needed a special method to control him. Fortunately, he was indeed worth it. His martial arts were outstanding, far surpassing that of an ordinary person. Although he was only a branch leader, his martial arts were not inferior to an altar leader or even a Fuwang. Moreover, he was exceptionally intelligent. People were often deceived by his appearance, thinking that he was a hot-headed person who did not know how to scheme and only knew how to use brute force. When Doing arrived at Gale City, Chuli was cultivating in his own residence. Coach Young personally led her to the courtyard and stood there respectfully. Doing secretly looked at Coach Young. He was getting on in years. He looked like he was more than 100 years old. His martial arts were very powerful, and his cultivation level was high. If he was in the Holy Church of Light, he would have gone to the fourth peak to enjoy his life. He would not have shown himself in public. Ever since Coach Young and the others established Gale Branch, their martial arts had been trained by Chuli, and their cultivation level had improved greatly. Chuli did not do it to reward them. He just wanted to slack off. If their martial arts were weak, they would always trouble him. Only when their martial arts were strong enough would they be able to handle things on their own without him showing up. Coach Young stood respectfully in the small courtyard like a statue. Doing felt strange and was about to ask, but Coach Young put a finger to his lips, gesturing for her not to speak. Doing looked at him curiously. Coach Young pointed into the house and stopped moving again. Doing felt guilty and did not dare to make sound. She could only wait with him. After a while, Chu Li's voice was heard. "What's the matter?" "Master, Miss Du from the Holy Church of Light is here." Coach Young answered respectfully. "Senior Sister Du, come in," Chu Li said. Coach Young gestured for Doing to enter. Doing shook her head and smiled. Junior brother Zhao was really good with his subordinates. Such a powerful master was so respectful to him. It was obvious that he respected him from the bottom of his heart, and not just for show. She was very curious as to how junior brother Zhao did it. Coach Young left quietly, while Doing went into the house. Chu Li was sitting on the bed with his legs crossed. He looked at her calmly and gave her a fist salute. "Senior Sister Du, does the saint have any instructions for me?" "The saint has summoned you," junior brother Zhao, Doing said. Chu Li frowned. "Again, it's not a good thing this time." Doing sighed. "You hurt senior brother Deng too badly. The saint will punish you." "Is he dead?" Chu Li scoffed. Doing shook her head. "Senior brother Deng won't die so easily." Chu Li smiled. "It's good that he's not dead. It's not considered a fight. Why would the saint punish me? He almost died this time." Doing sighed. "Senior brother Deng's injuries are getting worse. If it wasn't for the saint, it's hard to say whether he's dead or alive." "I see." Chu Li nodded. "All right, I'll go with you." Doing sighed. "Junior brother Zhao, you must hate seeing me. Every time I come, it's always bad news." Chu Li laughed and shook his head. He could see through Du Ying's thoughts. She was pure and kind. She was not the kind of person without principles. Instead, she had a clear distinction between love and hate. He liked her very much. Therefore, he did not hate her at all. In fact, he was very relaxed when he interacted with her. "That's good." Doing smiled and said, "Junior brother Zhao, is this your idea? To injure senior brother Deng so badly that he can't fulfill the military order? What do you think?" Chu Li smiled. "It's quite vicious. You're taking drastic measures." Doing said with a smile. Chu Li nodded. "It seems like senior brother Deng isn't as strong as I thought. Didn't you find a master to help? Logically speaking, he should have been able to control it. Senior brother Deng isn't very popular. No master is willing to help him." Doing said. Chu Li got up and left the bed. Then, he left his residence with Doing and glided towards the Great Light Peak. The two of them chatted and laughed along the way. Unknowingly, they arrived at the Divine Light Basilica. It was already evening and the sun was setting. However, the Divine Light Basilica was unusually bright. The ice peak at the top of the Great Light Peak reflected the setting sun. Rays of sunset light shone into the Divine Light Basilica. It was exceptionally bright, which was how the Divine Light Basilica got its name. When he entered the Divine Light Basilica, Sun Mingyue was standing in a corner of the basilica. She looked at him thoughtfully. Her clear eyes scanned him from head to toe, as if she was trying to see through his mind. Chu Li fist saluted. "Saint, tell me, how are you going to punish me this time?" "Your punishment is to kill Li Hanyan," Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li frowned. "I won't help him kill Li Hanyan. I know that if I kill Li Hanyan, the credit will still go to him. It'll be considered as him fulfilling the military order. That's right. If you kill Li Hanyin, you won't hurt Deng Datong. Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li said, then you can punish me directly. I'll keep the branch leader of Gale Branch for you. Sun Mingwe said, you can kill another person. It'll be considered as a balance. Saint, as far as I know, the Church of Light doesn't allow one's merits to be offset. No matter how great one's merits are, it can't be used to offset one's crimes. Chu Li said, some can be offset, some can't. Sun Mingwe said, you can't generalize. You didn't cause a disaster this time, so you can offset your merits. Kill who? Chu Li scoffed. Sun Mingwe said, Liang Yinga. Chapter 12:17. Chu Li frowned. Liang Yinga, you should know Liang Yinga from the Zheng dynasty's mysterious pavilion. You fought him before. Yes, he's very powerful, but I can't kill him. The mysterious pavilion is like the holy church of the Li dynasty to the Zheng dynasty. Although the mysterious pavilion isn't a martial arts sect, it's the most powerful department in the Zheng dynasty. Sun Mingwe nodded. Looks like the mysterious pavilion is in the way. Chu Li thought about it and shook his head. I thought the saint was going to avenge the 12th prince. It's not because of him. Sun Mingwe shook her head. It's because the mysterious pavilion is a great threat to the holy church. I see. Chu Li nodded. But we can't kill everyone who threatens the holy church, right? That'll be too much to kill. He's very powerful. Sun Mingwe said. That's why we have to eliminate him. All right, I'll go look for him, but my martial arts isn't as good as his. I don't know if I can kill him. Chu Li nodded without hesitation. You really want to go? Sun Mingwe asked. She did not expect Chu Li to agree so readily. She thought he would bargain or even fall out with her. Chu Li said, as long as I don't help Deng Datong, I don't hate other things. Very well. Since you're able to kill Liang Yinga, we'll write it off. I won't trouble you again this year, so you can stay in Gale City. All right, no problem. Chu Li said, I'll send you news about Liang Yinga. Sun Mingwe said, it'll take some time to collect it. Go into isolated cultivation and improve your martial arts. Then, you'll be able to kill Liang Yinga. Yes, Chu Li nodded. Sun Mingwe looked at him with satisfaction. This was how a true subordinate should act, not as unscrupulous as before. Chu Li asked, what about senior brother Deng? Don't worry about it, Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li smiled. His injury won't heal so easily. Sun Mingwe asked, what method did you use? The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture is full of mysteries. Once I've gradually mastered it, I can already unleash its power. He thinks that he has expelled the inner energy, but it's actually just turning it into his own inner energy. After a while, it'll turn back again. Chu Li shook his head. It'll keep going back and forth. Sun Mingwe said, Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture. Chu Li replied, every time it spins, it'll become stronger, and his injuries will worsen as well. It's like a rolling snowball, and he won't be able to withstand it at all unless we get someone to remove his inner energy. However, I don't think it'll work without a top-notch master. It looks like we'll have to trouble you, Saint, to do it in the end. How arrogant. Sun Mingwe snorted and said, you overestimate the experts of our holy church. Any senior expert can treat this injury. Chu Li grinned and said, Saint, you can give it a try. Don't worry, you'll see soon enough, Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li said, if he's careless, he'll really die, but he won't die for a while. In the later stages, the relapse will become more severe and it won't go away. When that time comes, it'll be almost impossible to treat him completely. Sun Mingwe shook her head and said, you're really vicious. Huh? Chu Li laughed proudly. If he's heartless, I'll be unjust. Other than the saint, no one else dares to scheme against me like this. Go. Sun Mingwe scoffed. Chu Li fist saluted and turned to leave. Doing secretly sighed in relief. She was worried that Chu Li would go back to his old ways and go against the saint. That would not end well. Duing, wait up. Sun Mingwe called out to Duing, who wanted to follow him out. Duing turned her head back reluctantly, and when she turned her head again, Chu Li had already left the Divine Light Basilica. Sun Mingwe said, "Go to Gale City in a few days and send him some dossiers." "Yes." Doing smiled. Sun Mingwe looked at her graceful silhouette as she left curiously. Zhao De was so ugly. Although he looked more pleasing to the eye than before, perhaps it was because of the technique he cultivated, he was still ugly compared to the people around him. She did not expect Doing to not care and was even willing to get close to him. This was an anomaly among the many disciples of the Holy Church of Light. Back then, Li Rulin was only following orders to get close to Zhao De. After spending a long time with him, she saw Zhao De's nature and did not mind so much. Chu Li returned to the public house's island again. Li Hanyin was still wielding her long sword, pondering the essence of Chu Li's previous attack. The lanterns were first lit, and the island was brightly lit as if it was daytime. The lake outside reflected the bright moon, and the moonlight on the lake merged with the waves. Li Hanyin's oval face was as fair as jade under the light, and she looked cold and charming. Chu Li smiled. Had he thought it through? Li Hanyin shook her head. Am I too stupid? Oh, Chu Li smiled. You still have such thoughts? I always feel that I'm stupid. I haven't understood anything after so long. If you can understand it in a day, I'll think that I'm stupid. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Continue pondering. Yes. Li Hanyin smiled. These few words restored her confidence, and she no longer doubted herself. She had been thinking for a day, but still could not figure it out. It was a little frustrating. It would be good if she could understand something, but there were no clues or flashes of inspiration. 5 days later, Chu Li met Doing in Gale City. She was carrying 2 big bags that were filled to the brim with dossiers. Chu Li smiled. He had always wanted to kill Liang Yinge, but he could not find his weakness. He did not know his origin, so he had no way to restrain him. Now that he had this information, there was a glimmer of hope to deal with Liang Yinge. If he still could not deal with him, he could only cultivate and increase his cultivation level before killing him. Doing smiled. Junior brother Zhao, I'll stay here for 2 days. If there's anything you don't understand or want to understand, I'll write it down and bring it back to the saint. It won't take too long. I'll read it right away. Chu Li nodded. When he saw Doing again, he vaguely understood Sun Mingwe's intention. Sun Mingwe wanted Doing to become the second Li Rulin, so that she could restrain the Zhao De that he disguised as. He shook his head secretly. He was not tempted. Falling in love in the Holy Church of Light was simply asking for trouble. Although Doing was good, he could not be too close to her. He then flipped through the dossiers. Doing did not say anything else. She sat at the side and watched Chu Li quickly flip through the dossiers. He read at the same speed as the saint, Sun Mingwe. In the blink of an eye, he finished reading one scroll, then the next. He finished reading the 2 big bags of dossiers in half a day. After reading Liang Yinge's dossiers, Chu Li frowned. Liang Yinge's origin was very mysterious, and so was his master. It was said that the Crescent Cryptic 9 Kills trial was an ancient antique study with amazing power. Moreover, the conditions to cultivate it were very harsh. He was a genius to be able to cultivate it. Such a person was favored by God, so it was not easy to kill him. Although there were many dossiers, there was still no information about his origin, so they could not find out who he was. They only recorded some of the things he did, which showed his character. When Doing saw Chu Li's serious expression, she hurriedly said, "Junior brother Zhao, is it not enough?" Chu Li shook his head. "It's useless. Then what should we do?" Doing frowned. "Can you still complete the task given by the saint?" Chapter 12:18. Is Liang Yinge really that powerful? Doing asked. Chu Li nodded. Very powerful. He almost killed me the last time. It's very difficult to deal with him. What should we do then? Doing frowned. The saint knows how difficult it is to deal with him. She's just asking me to try. Chu Li shook his head. I'll try to kill him again. Although Liang Yinge had put him in a difficult position the last time, it was mostly because of the 12th prince, Sun Yuqing. Without Sun Yuqing, he would not have been in such a difficult position. Although they had tried again and failed, It was not impossible to find a way. It was not necessary to be stronger than the other party in martial arts to kill. Junior brother Zhao, you'll succeed. Doing smiled. Chuli shook his head and laughed. He closed his eyes and replayed the dossier in his mind. He analyzed it one by one to find his weakness, his style of doing things, and his character. After a while, he did not find anything. He could only conclude that Liang Yinga must have an extremely powerful master. His master was very mysterious. Senior Sister Du, go back and tell the saint that I want to know about Liang Yinga's master, Chuli said. Okay. Doing asked, anything else? Chuli shook his head. Find out more about Zhu Liang. He's an enlightened master from 1,000 years ago. Okay. Doing left the courtyard and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chuli watched her leave. He got up and paced in the courtyard. Ever since he left the secret guardian's hall, he no longer had any reason to stay in the Holy Church of Light. There was no need for him to hide anymore, but he was reluctant to give up this identity. Firstly, he was unwilling to give up. As a man, he had always been bullied by Sun Mingyue. He felt aggrieved that he could not stand up for himself, so he wanted to find a chance to take Sun Mingyue down. As for destroying the Holy Church of Light, he had no motivation to do so. When he thought that everything was under the control of the Fu dynasty, he could not bring himself to do it. Moreover, the Holy Church of Light was more powerful than the secret guardian's hall and even the Tempest Temple. He could use their power to do things that ordinary people could not imagine. Killing Liang Yinga this time was an example. He had always wanted to kill Liang Yinga, but he could not. With the help of the Holy Church of Light, there might be a glimmer of hope. As long as they killed Liang Yinga and avenged King Ping, it would pave the way for Suan. Whether or not Su and would have a chance in the future depended on whether or not Su and was the emperor. If Crown Prince Lung Jinghua did not make any mistakes, Sun would not have a chance at all. However, he believed that Lung Jinghua would make mistakes. The current Lung Jinghua was different from the Lung Jinghua before he became the crown prince. His temperament had changed, so it was easier for him to make mistakes. There would be a glimmer of hope if Lung Jinghua made a mistake, but there would be no hope if he could not kill Liang Yinga. Doing returned to Gale City 7 days later and looked for Chu Li. In these 7 days, Li Hanyin had already mastered that sword technique, the art of pushing 1,000 caddies with little effort. Chu Li was in awe of her level of comprehension. She was indeed a natural swordsman. This was what he comprehended when he was cultivating the great heaven-deriving sword in Philip's swift thunder. It was the essence of a flash of inspiration. He did not expect Li Hanyin to be able to master it in just 10 days. After sending Li Hanyin back to Snow Lunar Pavilion, he returned to Gale City and waited for Du Ying's return. Chu Li looked at the dossier and frowned. He did not say a word. The two of them were in his bedroom. Du Ying sat on a stool and stared at him without blinking. When she saw his frown, she quickly asked, "Is it still useless?" Chu Li shook his head. "I've gained something this time. I didn't expect Zhu Liang and Liang Yinga to be related." When he said that he wanted to investigate Liang Yinga's master and Zhu Liang, he did not think that the two were related. He only wanted to use Sun Mingyue's power to investigate Zhu Liang and see if he could find more clues to obtain the Spirit Crane technique. He did not expect that there would be a relationship between them. From the information obtained by the Holy Church of Light, the Crescent Cryptic 9 Kills trial that Liang Yinga cultivated was from Zhu Liang's wife's lineage. It seemed that finding the Spirit Crane technique that Zhu Liang hid was on Liang Yinga. Du Ying asked, "Are you going to take action?" Chu Li nodded. "Senior Sister Du, go back and tell the saint that I'll leave immediately. Then be careful," Du Ying said softly. Chu Li smiled. "Don't worry, I'll run if I can't beat them." Du Ying nodded. At the foot of ascending Dragon Mountain, Liang Yinga stood under a tree and looked up at the mountain. Behind him were 4 gray-robed elders who looked gloomy. The 4 gray-robed elders had high cultivation levels and were only slightly weaker than Liang Yinga. They stood behind Liang Yinga and shook their heads helplessly. "The formation can't be broken. It can't be broken." One of the gray-robed elders shook his head and said helplessly, Pavilion Master, this vast cold palace is quite strange. It's not surprising that the heavenly King Palm has such abilities, Lianging said. He wore a green robe and looked as handsome as jade as he looked at ascending Dragon Mountain. The ascending Dragon Mountain was currently shrouded in fog and could not be seen clearly. With his eyesight, he could see the peak of the mountain no matter how high it was. However, it was shrouded in fog and could not be seen. He knew that the vast cold palace was in this fog and could not be seen because it was shrouded in a formation. Relying on this formation, the vast cold palace was aloof and independent. They were not strong, but they were arrogant and caused no small amount of trouble. This was especially so for the profound pavilion, which made him extremely angry. He wanted to remove this nail and make an example out of it. However, it was not easy to deal with the vast cold palace. The huge ascending Dragon Mountain was not only a mountain, but also a mountain range. It was impossible to seal the entire mountain range and prevent people from coming out. Moreover, ascending Dragon Mountain was rich in resources. Even if they did not come out, they would not have to worry about food and clothing. It was said that there were not many people in the vast cold palace, so their consumption was very small. It was impossible to use the method of trapping the city. He knew a little about formations, and the Zheng dynasty also had people who were proficient in formations. He sent the most powerful formation masters to break the vast cold palace's formation, but after 10 days, there was no result. Another thin, gray-robed elder said, "Pavilion Master, if it's really impossible, let's burn the mountain." Lianging glanced at him and shook his head. The other 3 gray-robed elders shook their heads. No, burning the mountain is too harmful, and it may not be effective. The formation master was so powerful. How could he not be prepared for this? I don't believe that there's anything we can do under fire. The thin, gray-robed elder scoffed. Lianging said, under a formation, burning is useless. You guys should learn about formations. Even if you can't learn, you should at least understand some basic knowledge. Yes. The 4 of them lowered their heads and agreed. Lianging waved his hand and continued to stare at ascending Dragon Mountain. The other 4 shook their heads secretly. It was useless no matter how they looked at it. If they cannot break it, they cannot break it. According to the 2 formation masters, this formation was a strange formation that was integrated with the mountain range. For 1,000 years, it had been integrated step by step and became closer, which was why it had such power. No matter how powerful they were, they could not do anything against such a formation. You guys go first, I'll take a look myself. Lianging waved his hand. The 4 of them fists saluted and fluttered away. They wanted to enter ascending Dragon Mountain again to see if they would get lost again. As soon as the 4 of them left, Chuli suddenly appeared in front of Lianging. Chapter 12:19. Chuli said, "Watch my blade." 2 flying blades were shot out in an instant. The blade flashed and appeared in front of him, giving him almost no time to react. Lianging's senses were sharp. As the blade flashed past, it seemed like he could not avoid it. The flying blades passed through without any hindrance, leaving only an empty shadow. Chuli frowned. The power of the light blade was strong, but it was useless against Lianging. Lianging's senses were too sharp. As soon as Chuli thought about it, Lianging could sense his killing intent and instantly dodge it. No matter how many blades Lianging shot out, it was futile. It was hopeless. The only way to restrain his senses was to use the life and death scripture to restrain his killing intent. Even so, Lianging's light body technique was outstanding. Chuli had always been successful with his top-notch light body technique and light blade, but it was like meeting his nemesis when he met Lianging. Lianging's antique skills were restrained by him. More importantly, the only way to defeat him was to have a higher cultivation level, but Lianging's cultivation level was higher. As a result, Lianging was at a complete disadvantage and felt extremely uncomfortable. At this time, he had transformed into Zhao Dai and needed to hide his martial arts. He only showed the Great Light Scripture and the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture. His cultivation level could not be completely exposed either, so it was weaker than his original cultivation level. As a result, he could not do anything to Liang'inga. It was just the light blade and the great light fist. To Liang'inga, they were just harassment. Chuli had the same intention. After he shot out 20 blades, he suddenly stopped and turned to leave. Liang'inga scoffed and appeared in front of Chu Li in a flash. Chu Li swayed swiftly and moved a foot to the side to avoid his 9 kills palm energy. While Liang'inga frowned, Chu Li was like a breeze. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in a forest and disappeared. Liang'inga did not give up and directly chased into the forest. Chi! Chi! 2 blade flashes instantly shot out. Liang'inga felt that something was wrong and had already dodged. The blade flashes hit the pine tree behind him. Bang! The pine tree exploded. Liang'inga and Chu Li had already disappeared. Only the pine tree was cut in the middle and slowly fell. The two of them chased each other in the forest. Soon enough, Liang'inga realized that he had lost his way and was trapped in a formation. The ascending Dragon Mountains formation was no joke. He suddenly stopped and frowned as he looked around. He floated on the treetops. The vast expanse of green was like an ocean. No matter how he ran, it was useless. It was as if he was in the same place. He also understood formations, so he knew that it was extremely difficult to break out of formation. The more he wandered, the more hopeless it would be. He stood there quietly and observed his surroundings, carefully sensing everything: the flow of the wind, the change in temperature, the humidity of the ground, and the direction of the vegetation. After a while, he still had no clue and gradually became restless. Suddenly, a whistling sound rang in his ear. He sensed that the saber light had appeared in front of him, but he did not notice its existence. His body had already subconsciously moved to the side, avoiding the saber light that appeared from behind, which made him break out in a cold sweat. The saber light flashed again. He sensed it coming from the left, but it appeared on the right. He knew that his senses had been disrupted by the formation, and it was now the complete opposite. This might be a heaven and earth reversal formation. The next time the saber light flashed, he deliberately avoided it in the opposite direction of his senses, but he did not expect his senses to be right this time. There was no need to go in the opposite direction, so the saber light shone on him. The saber light was too fast, and he could only avoid it by relying on his senses. Once he saw the saber light and tried to avoid it, it was already too late. No matter how good his light body technique was, it was useless, so he could only urge his force to meet the saber light. The saber light pierced through his right palm without hesitation. He snorted angrily, and his face was covered with frost. His body suddenly sped up, and he pounced in the direction of the saber light. The saber light flashed again. He felt that he could no longer rely on experience. The saber light appeared in front of him, but he did not treat it as if it was in front of him or behind him. He tried his best to jump up, thinking that he would be able to avoid it. As soon as he jumped into the air, he saw that the saber light was already in front of him. He cursed and could only helplessly push out his right palm again. His palm was as fast as lightning, but he could only block it for a moment. The flying saber instantly pierced through his palm and shot toward his heart. However, with his right palm blocking it, it was only for a moment, but it was enough for him to move away. He spat out an arrow of blood in the air. After the saber penetrated his body, it directly shattered his internal organs, and he was instantly severely injured. A strange force kept colliding in his body again and again, causing him to be injured again and again. Liang'inga snorted angrily. Good move. He also knew formations, but now he knew that he still needed to improve his formations, or he would not have been in such a predicament today. He was seriously injured now, and he could originally suppress this ugly guy to the point that he could not breathe, but with the help of the formation, he was the one who suppressed him instead. Unfortunately, he could not escape and could only drag his injured body to entangle with him. His life was uncertain. He swore that he would concentrate on studying formations after he returned. Chuli laughed out loud. Liang Inga, surrender. What's the benefit of surrendering? Liang Inga snorted coldly. I'm already being lenient by not killing you, but I didn't think that you would dare to come here to die. Chuli laughed. Think about it yourself. You're so smart, you must have thought of it. The Holy Church of Light. Liang Inga sneered. He was friends with Sun Mingyue because they had a common enemy, but he did not expect Sun Mingyue to take the initiative and attack him first. Chuli said, the saint might like you, so she wants to kill you. Huh? Liang Inga laughed out loud. Like me? Chuli nodded. There are only a few people in the world who can catch the saint's eye. The rest of the men are too weak. Do you think it's impossible for the saint to like you? Impossible. Liang Inga scoffed. Her martial arts is too strong, and her state of mind is transcendent. It's impossible for her to have any personal feelings. She's at the age of first awakening in love. How can she not have personal feelings? Chuli shook his head and laughed. You're the one who deifies the saint too much. I'm not deified at all. You'll know in the future. Liang Inga shook his head. All right, you should go. It's time for you to go. Chuli chuckled and said, You're going to die today. Will your martial arts be lost? Liang Inga frowned and remained silent. He had only one disciple for several generations, and each generation's successor was extremely brilliant and far surpassed their peers, so it had not been lost. If it was to be lost in his generation, it would be a shame to his master, and he would not be able to face the Grand Master even if he ascended to the Outland. At this thought, he took a deep breath and shook his head. He could not be shaken by this ugly fellow, and it was more important to find a way to escape. Puffed. He spat out another mouthful of blood. Chuli hid in the formation and watched him gradually weaken, but he did not relax. A person like Liang Inga was not easy to kill, and he had more than one trump card. Chuli knew very well that he was not in a hurry to escape, and instead, he wanted to take advantage of his weakness and find a chance to give him another hard blow. Liang Inga slowly fell and did not move as if he had lost his strength. His whole body was weak, and he did not have an imposing manner at all. Chuli suddenly shot out another knife. TSS. The knife flashed, and Liang Inga suddenly pounced on Chuli. However, Chuli did not move. Liang Inga raised his bony right palm again, and a faint light flashed. The flying knife that was stuck in his palm did not penetrate it, and he took the flying knife and shot in Chuli's direction. Chuli did not move, and Liang Inga turned away 2 meters away from him. Chuli secretly sighed in relief, and was shocked by Liang Inga's strength. Although he could not find Chu Li through the formation, he could rely on other senses to distinguish the truth from the chaos. This was extremely difficult, and it was truly amazing. Chapter 1220. If Liang Inga knew formations and could find him, it would not be a big deal. However, Liang Inga was not relying on formations, so it was extremely rare, which made Chuli admire him very much. After one time, Liang Inga was deeply encouraged and felt that this trick was useful. He did not move as if he had become one with the wind and felt Chu Li's position through the wind. Chu Li also did not move and did not use the flying blade in case Liang Inga sensed him. If he did not use the flying blade, he would not have any flaws. Once he used the flying blade, it would be a flaw that was very likely to be caught. Chuli could only rely on the formation now. This formation was extremely powerful, and he felt that it would not be easy for Liang Inga to break it. He suddenly disappeared in a flash and reappeared 1 meter away from Liang Inga. He could almost reach him if he stretched out his hand. However, Liang Inga could not sense him. This was the beauty of the formation. The reason why the formation had its current status was because it was the mystery of the operation of heaven and earth. It was a supreme existence that was far above humans. When humans did not exist, the formation already existed. It was naturally formed by heaven and earth, and humans slowly discovered the subtlety of the formation and used it. Liang Inga frowned. He faintly felt that something was wrong, but he could not sense it. There was a huge crisis hidden deep in his heart, reminding him to leave quickly and run as far as possible. Unfortunately, he was trapped by the formation and lost his way. It was useless no matter how he ran. At a glance, he was in a vast green sea with no end in sight. He even lost his sense of direction, as if he could not get out of this place. He suddenly dodged to the side, and Chu Li's blade happened to appear again. This early dodge allowed him to avoid his vital points, but he was shot in the shoulder. His movement paused for a moment and slowed down. Chu Li did not fall for it. He did not continue to attack, but instead took a step back. At this moment, Liang Ying's left palm had already arrived and had almost hit Chu Li. The sharp force of the palm wind brushed past the tip of Chu Li's nose. Chu Li secretly sighed in relief. This Liang Ying was really more cunning than a fox, and he almost fell for it. Fortunately, he did not have the treasured clothing on him, or else it would be more difficult to deal with him. Liang Ying cursed in his heart. This guy was even more cunning than a fox. He was so close to catching him, so close every time. If it was someone else, even with the help of the formation, he would still be able to find a way to catch them and turn defense into offense, turning defeat into victory. After that, Chu Li followed the same pattern. He would change his position with each slash and suddenly shoot out a blade without Liang Ying noticing. In just a short while, he had already shot out 4 slashes, and Liang Ying had also suffered 4 slashes. Although he only bled a little, he was still wounded and his vitality was damaged. However, no matter how much his vitality was damaged, it was not a serious injury. He was not as weak as he appeared to be. Chu Li could see that he was pretending to be weak and was looking for an opportunity to turn defeat into victory. Chu Li would rather have nothing to gain than to not make any mistakes. Both of them were fighting mentally and physically, and they were willing to go to any lengths. Both of them felt that the slightest mistake would result in death. Therefore, both of them felt like they were walking on a tightrope, their bodies tensed up. Chu Li originally wanted to drag it out a little longer so that Liang Ying's injuries would worsen. However, he did not expect Liang Ying's heart technique to be so amazing that he was slowly recovering from his injuries. His body was not inferior to his own heavenly demon body. Seeing that his plan had failed, he had no choice but to speed up. One slash after another, he wanted to finish off Liang Ying as soon as possible. Pavilion Master. A long shout came from afar. Liang Ying was overjoyed and let out a long roar. Then a long roar came from afar. The roar was like thunder. Chu Li sighed. The heavens really did not let Liang Ying die. The omniscient mirror was affected by the formation and could not see the entire ascending dragon mountain, but it saw 4 elders slowly approaching. With their speed, they would only need 10 minutes to arrive. 2 of the gray-robed elders had a profound cultivation level, while the other 2 were only innate masters. Chu Li could see that these 2 were formation masters. The 2 of them cooperated. One kept chanting while the other kept deducing. The 2 of them cooperated and walked forward step by step. Their speed was very slow, but no matter how slow they were, as long as they did not stop, they would eventually arrive. They were only about 500 meters away from the 4 of them. Without the formation in the way, they could arrive in an instant. Under the formation, they moved slowly step by step, but their steps were big and faster than ordinary people. It was enough for them to arrive in 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, he frowned and shook his head. He was afraid that he would not be able to defeat Liang Ying. Liang Ying had a strong physique. It was probably because the Crescent Cryptic 9 Kills trial had a body-refining effect. Liang Ying's martial arts also had the ability to prevent prying, so the omniscient mirror could not see his heart. Chu Li had always wanted to defeat Liang Ying. After crippling his martial arts, he could use the omniscient mirror to read Liang Ying's heart, find out about Zhu Liang, and find the spirit crane technique. Moreover, even without the spirit crane technique, he wanted to kill Liang Ying and avenge King Ping so that King Ping would support Su In and prepare for the future fight for the throne. TSS, TSS, TSS. He shot out 4 flying knives in one breath, and the flying knives on him were completely used up. He usually kept the flying knives after shooting out, but this time he did not. The knives were stained with Liang Inga's blood, and Liang Inga might be able to sense the flying knives through the blood. If Chuli had this ability, Liang Inga might have it too. He flashed into the formation one step ahead, and Liang Inga missed again. Chu Li had already appeared 200 feet away. Then, like a stream of light, he instantly appeared beside the two purple-robed elders. He hid in the formation and avoided the senses of the two gray-robed elders. Two energy blades shot toward the backs of the two purple-robed elders. TSS. TSS. The energy blades were no different from real knives. There was only a difference when it was used against masters like Liang Inga. It did not matter to the purple-robed elders, as they were killed in one blow. Bam bam. The two purple-robed elders flew out. Xiao Gu Xiao Wei. The two gray-robed elders cried out. They looked about the same age, but in fact, the two purple-robed elders were a generation younger than them. Their martial arts cultivation level was poor, and their mental energy consumption was too high. One of the gray-robed elders went to save them, while the others stood vigilantly at the side, ready to make a move at any time. Chu Li shook his head in disappointment and disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared in a house in the High Duke's public house. The house was full of crystal-clear flying knives. Usually, the High Duke's public house's skilled craftsmen meticulously forged them, and each knife was abnormally sharp. The next moment, Chu Li appeared in the formation again at his original position. Among all the formations, this was the only place where he could freely pass through. His god's limbs could not pass through the other places. Formations were an existence of a higher level than divine power. Of course, it required an ancient formation that was integrated with heaven and earth. Ordinary formations would definitely not work. Moreover, in today's world, the inheritance of formations was getting more and more difficult, and its power was getting weaker. There were formations that could stop his god's limbs, but there were not many of them. It was extremely difficult to set them up. As Chu Li expected, the two purple-robed elders had already woken up. They were wearing treasured clothes, so their injuries were not fatal. It seemed that Liang Inga's treasured clothes were with one of them. Chapter 12:21. As long as he killed these two formation masters, it would be difficult for Liang Inga to come out, and the two gray-robed elders would not be able to come out either. It would be the most worry-free way to get rid of them without any bloodshed. The two gray-robed elders were already prepared. They stood in front of the two purple-robed elders and guarded them. Their eyes were as cold as a sword as they were ready to attack at any time. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Usually, their defense would be very tight, but now that they were in a formation, the effect was weak. He flashed and appeared beside the two gray-robed elders again, then shot both of his hands. The two flying blades were like two rays of light that drilled into the purple-robed elders' temples. They entered from one side and came out from the other side, then shot into the pine tree next to them with blood. He condensed his inner energy into the two blades. When the two blades were shot out, they missed and his body felt weak. Fortunately, the two blades were successful. The two purple-robed formation masters could not be more dead. He let out a long sigh of relief. The two gray-robed elders roared at the sky. Chu Li had disappeared. A Grandmaster's most sensitive instinct was to sense danger. If there was no danger, this unimaginable intuition would not be stimulated. Chu Li used this weakness to kill the two purple-robed elders before the two gray-robed elders could react and calmly retreated. The two gray-robed elders roared and rushed in the direction where Chu Li was previously. The two formation masters were national treasures and the most precious talents in the Zheng Kingdom. The pavilion master had spent a lot of favors to invite them and sent them to protect him at all times, but he did not expect there to be a mistake. If the injury was elsewhere, they could be saved. They had life-saving spirit pills, so as long as their souls were not scattered, they could be saved. However, if the head was injured, the spirit pills would be useless. They only had anger now, an anger that could burn everything. They wanted to cut the murderer into pieces. Driven by anger, they desperately waved their palms and fists. Wherever they passed, the grass and trees were blown away. They wanted to destroy everything. They faintly felt that Chuli was not far away. As long as they sped up, they could catch up with him. Obviously, this guy could not run freely in the formation. He could only move slowly step by step, just like they did before. However, no matter how hard they chased, they were always one step away from seeing Chuli's shadow. When they were almost done venting their anger, they realized that the scene in front of them was very familiar. The ground was in a mess, as if there had been a tornado. They looked at each other, turned around, and came back. It was useless to use brute force to break the formation. The two formation masters who died had said that they had also tried it, and this time was no exception. Looking at the messy surroundings, their hearts were filled with anger again, and they wanted to destroy everything. "What should we do?" A gray-robed old man sighed and shook his head. The other gray-robed old man thought for a moment, then pursed his lips and let out a long whistle. Another long howl rang out in the distance. "Good idea. Let's look for the pavilion master." He also let out a long howl. Another long howl came from afar. Liang Inga kept howling, and each howl was louder than the last. He did not seem to be hurt at all. Chuli stood still in the distance. He wanted to see if they could break out of the array without the help of an array master. The whistling sounds rose and fell in succession, one after another, echoing each other as if they were getting closer and closer to each other. But after walking for a quarter of an hour, the whistling sound suddenly became distant. Both sides stopped moving and wanted to retreat, knowing that they had gone the wrong way. When they looked back, their expressions changed. The road had changed completely, and they did not know how to retreat. They even suspected that they had walked past that place. They braced themselves and took 2 steps back. Then, they let out another long howl. The distance became further, and they did not know what to do. Chu Li secretly shook his head. If a formation was so easy to break through, it would have been broken long ago. A person's 5 senses were the most useless and the biggest weakness of a formation. A formation affected people through the 5 senses, thus causing them to fall into chaos and mistakes. Previously, Liang Inga's perception of himself was beyond the 5 senses, and it was similar to a 6th sense. Chuli thought about it, but he still did not make a move. Liang Inga was too powerful. Once he made a move, he might be discovered and caught up to him. It was better not to make a move. He disappeared in a flash and returned to the Tianshu courtyard in King An's imperial residence. Xiao Shi was reading in the courtyard. When she saw him, she put down the book and glanced at him. "Did you know that Lu Yurong really became the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall?" Chuli said. She got what she wanted. "Congratulations. You're such a good person." Xiao Shi scoffed. She was dressed in white, and her face was as white as jade. Her eyes were deep like the abyss, and her aura was irresistible. Chuli smiled. She became the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. She won't touch King An's imperial residence. That's not necessarily true. Xiao Shi pouted. She's going to attack the imperial residence. Do you know which imperial residence will be the first to suffer? Chuli thought about it. King Cheng's imperial residence? Xiao Shi shook her head. Chuli said, "Could it be King Ping's imperial residence?" Xiao Shi still shook her head. Chuli frowned. "There are other imperial residences that are worth attacking. Prince Kang's imperial residence." Xiao Shi said. Chuli was surprised. "She's really bold." Xiao Shi scoffed. "I heard that there are disciples from the Holy Church of Light hiding in Prince Kang's imperial residence. She got the news and brought people to break into the imperial residence. She killed 2 masters from the Holy Church of Light." Chuli frowned. "Will the Crown Prince be willing to do that?" She's the Crown Prince's confidant. She represents the Crown Prince's attitude. Can the Crown Prince not tolerate Prince Kong? Who knows? Xiao Shi sneered. She's now riding on the crest of success, full of mettle. It's not easy to be the commander of the Secret Guardians Hall. It's easy to get into trouble. You won't last long if you're not capable. Chuli said. Lu Yurong might be chased away soon. Xiao Shi instantly smiled. She liked what Chu Li said. However, she did not mean what she said. She's very capable. Let's see if she can suppress Prince Kong this time. Prince Kong. Chu Li frowned. He had a good relationship with Prince Kong. Back then, he was able to return to Fairy's capital from the Imperial Mausoleum because of Prince Kong and the others pleading. It would be difficult to change the emperor's mind on his own. The Ji dynasty's emperor, Lung Wufeng, was a strong-willed man. Once he spoke, he would persist to the end, even if he was wrong. The dignity of the royal family was more important than anything else. Xiao Shi said, "You're close to Prince Kong. Do you think Lu Yurong is doing this to deal with you?" Me? Chu Li pondered. He did not deny it immediately. It was a possibility. His relationship with Lu Yurong was complicated. They went from enemies to friends. They trusted each other, but did not trust each other. They worked together, but fought against each other. If Lu Yurong was confident that she could win, she would choose to fight without hesitation. Xiao Shi scoffed. You have to be careful. Lu Yurong is not the same as before. Don't forget that she still has a weakness. Mayer Courtyard. Chu Li slowly nodded. As they spoke, footsteps from outside came from a chief. The chief steward's footsteps were heard. Wang Fei, there's an invitation from Prince Kang's Fu outside. Come in, Xiao Shi said. The chief carefully entered the courtyard and bowed respectfully to Xiao Shi and Chu Li. It's from Prince Kong, head chief. Xiao Shi looked at Chu Li. Chu Li extended his hand. The chief quickly presented it with both hands. Chu Li opened it and nodded. Is it at the Verdant Cloud brothel again? Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li shook his head. It's at the imperial residence. That's good. Xiao Shi said. It's probably to complain to you. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.